This election is about all of us, our neighbors, our seniors, our young people, our families, and our future. On June 16th, Democrats will vote for mayor, delegate to Congress, at-large council, and state party leadership. These races will shape housing, safety, schools, opportunity, and the future of our communities. Don't sit this one out. Return your mail ballot by June 16th and visit ward8pms.com Ward 8 votes for more information on the voting process.
Greetings, Ward 8 family. I'm Troy Dante Presswood. Do us a favor, click like and share this video on all your social platforms. Let's make sure everyone in the Ward 8 family knows it's election season yet again in our ward, and there's a lot at stake. First, I have some quick reminders that voting is already underway, and you have several ways to cast your ballot.
Here is a list of the Ward 8 early vote sites on your screen. Go ahead and take a screenshot so you have it handy and share it with family, neighbors, seniors, young voters, and anyone else who might need a reminder. This year, with ranked choice voting in effect, that means it's especially important to take a few minutes to understand your ballot before you cast your vote. Early voting is a great opportunity to go inside of a vote center to ask questions and feel confident about the process.
You can even drop off your completed mail-in ballot at any of these vote sites. If you need to register to vote or update your voting information, you can do that at these voting locations as well.
The final day to vote is June 16th. A list of the Election Day vote centers are on your screen, so take a screenshot now so you can keep it close. Don't wait until the last minute. Get informed, make a plan, and encourage your family and neighbors to do the same.
Now, for all the details, including where to vote, a sample ballot, candidate information, and more, visit our special election website at ward8dems.com/ward8votes. We've got you covered with everything you need to know at that website. Remember, your vote is your voice, and it shapes the future of our ward. Don't sit this one out.
One more time for the people in the back. Good afternoon, Ward 8. Thank you. There it is, right there. There it is. Thank you. Listen, my name is Khalid Barnes. I am currently a freshman, sophomore now at Morehouse College, Ward 8, finest youngin. You understand me. I'm going to come up here and settle myself. Ward 8 child, amen. Okay? So we definitely want to say good afternoon to each and every one of you who are in the building on today. We thank you for joining us, and we thank you for being a part of what today has to offer, all right? So before we go any further into this, I don't take this moment lightly, okay? I want y'all all to hear what I'm saying, all right? If you in the back, the people in the back, can you hear me? You can hear me. There it is. I heard a one yes. I got a one amen. Do I got anybody else in the back who can hear me? There we go. All right, cool. I like that. I love you. So listen, I don't take this moment lightly, okay? As a young person from Ward 8 myself, I don't take this moment for granted because this is where everything shifts, okay? This is where things shift for our generation. This is where things shift for our culture. This is where things shift for our people, all right? Especially here east of the river. Today is a day where it is monumental, all right? Today is a day where it should not be taken lightly, okay? So, for me as a young person who cares deeply about this city and someone who ultimately believes in the future of Ward 8, right? Too often, us as young people, we have to wait our turn. Too often, us as young people, we are told that not now, not yet, we gotta wait. But today is a day that shifts everything about our people. For those who can't vote, it's your time. You got the opportunity to help us and see who we want to vote for in the future, all right? So, we definitely thank each and every one of you for coming. Very quick note, real quick. I want everybody to hear me when I say this. Everybody pay attention. Pay up real quick. Give me one. Give me one. If you're looking at me, give me a one. If you paying attention, everybody in the back. If you in the back, give me a one real quick. One. Thank you. That's good right there. So what I want you to do, do me a favor. Pay attention. Do not walk in front of the camera whatsoever at all. Do not walk in front of here, please and thank you. We want to ensure this place is blocked off, all right? So with that being said, right, we're going to move forward. Today matters. Somebody shout, today matters. Today matters. I need you to make sure that you lock in, hear what everybody got to say, pay attention to what everybody got to say, listen up, because this is going to make the decision on who you vote for. I don't care who you vote for, as long as you vote. Somebody say, Ward 8 need to vote. You need to vote. I don't care who it is. Okay, we got a good amount of candidates up, but not now. They're going to be up in a little bit. But we got candidates here. They some good people. I don't know much about them. We should see. Because I'm trying to figure out what they got going on with themselves. So we're going to see. Okay, this is my first year voting. So this is my first year voting. I'm glad. Yeah, you better clap for that. This is my first year voting. So we thank you. But without further ado, today I want to bring up the man who got the plan together, all right? The man whose job I'm going to take in the next 1, 2, 3, I don't know, we're going to see. But I'm going to take his job, all right? So today is about voter education. It's about civic participation. And today is about making the candidates the candidates seeking our votes come directly to the people of Ward 8. They got to hear our concerns, who we got to say, right? So I want to bring up the Ward 8 Democrats president. Can somebody give a hand for the president of the Ward 8 Democrats? Now, Troy Dante Presswood. He's the president of Ward 8 Democrats, a public relations and communication strategist, a small business owner. He got money.
He got that bag.
A long time. He's old. Now, hear me when I say this. A long time voice. Woo! Jesus. In the Democratic politics right here in the district. He has worked across government, media, campaigns, public affairs, and civic engagement, and he continues to use this platform to make sure that Ward 8 voters are informed, respected, and heard. Now, if you can do me a favor and give the biggest round of applause.
Hello, everybody. Are y'all ready? I can't hear you. Are you ready? We so appreciate you being here at Sycamore and Oak. Give it up for yourselves. Here's what we're going to do. First of all, I want to thank Kalik again for his introduction. I'm Troy Dante Presswood, president of the Ward 8 Democrats. On behalf of our board, our volunteers, our members, welcome to the Ward 8 Democrats Candidate Forum and Straw Poll. A warm welcome to all of our Ward 8 family. Who's here from Ward 8? Raise your hand. Make some noise. Ward 8 in the house. Hey, do me a favor. I want you to like and share content on our social media. How many of you guys on Instagram? Not too many people? Come on now. Y'all on IG? Facebook? Okay, Facebook. Oh, okay. We got Facebook people. Candidates, are y'all taking notice of that? they more Facebook people than they are. Facebook, IG, Instagram, wherever you are. Listen, tag us at Ward 8 Votes so we can see your information. Tag us, take a picture, take a selfie, take pictures with candidates, take a picture of you voting, take a picture here at Sycamore and Oak. Whatever you do, tag us at ward8dems.com. Ward 8 Votes. Hashtag Ward 8 Votes. I want to also thank the Board of Elections. They are here today. If you have questions about your ballot, questions about voting, questions about ranked choice voting, the Board of Elections is here. They can talk with you. We'll bring up one of the persons who is here from the Board of Elections in just a moment. Before I go on, I want to bring up LeGreg. Where you at, LeGreg? LeGreg, as you all know, is the owner of the museum store. He's also, I think this mic is working right here, LeGreg. He's also one of the operators here at Sycamore and Oak. I want to bring him up so he can bring greetings to all of you that you're here in Sycamore and Oak. LeGreg.
Good morning, everybody. My name is LeGreg Harrison. Good morning, good morning. And I hope y'all know where y'all at. We're on the greatest side of the town. This is the great Ward 8, the heartbeat of the community, the pulse of Washington, D.C. We're in Congress Heights, where I was born and raised in my backyard at Martin Luther King Avenue. I grew up over here my entire life. And right now, you are sitting in a 23,000 square foot mass timber space called Sycamore and Oak. Southside, we outside? We outside, Southside. Listen, we are elated to have you here. Shout out to the Ward 8 Democrats. Shout out to Troy for putting this on. This is so amazing. So 2023, when we first opened this space, 23,000 square feet. We are the house of 20 black entrepreneurs, and this is their first opportunity at a brick and mortar space. And we have been incubated for 2.5 years, going on 3 years coming next month. We have been incubated with a program called Incubate the 8. It's a small business retail program where we give small business technical assistance, resources, and support to these small business, these vendors. And when I tell you, we have done so many things. I'll give you one example. I have a sneaker line now, ladies and gentlemen, because we were afforded the opportunity to fly to Las Vegas to go see a manufacturer that I met in China. And now I'm able to produce my own sneakers, in which out of 1,000 pair of sneakers I sold 800 in 2 days right here in Ward 8, okay? This place is about being vibrant. We're the house of wellness. Shout out to Joe Houston right here. We fit DC. But listen, we can't forget about Ward 8, everybody. We gotta make sure that we make the main thing the main thing. We can't do this right here without you, okay? So shout out once again to the Ward 8 Democrats. Troy, we love you. Thank you for bringing this to Sycamore and Oak, and let the fun happen.
Thank you so much, LeGrand. We appreciate that. I'll take it back from you. Give him another round of applause, everybody. Listen, LeGrand has a shop right here at Sycamore and Oak, the museum shop. Make sure you check it out. Get some of your great clothing line. It's right around the corner. Am I right? It's on the other side of this structure right here, so check them out before you leave. All right, let's start with the race for mayor. The mayor is the chief executive of the District of Columbia. The mayor runs the executive branch, oversees city agencies, proposes budgets, and shapes public safety, manages city services, and sets the tone for how government shows up or how it doesn't show up in people's lives. For Ward 8, this office matters deeply. The mayor's decisions affect housing, schools, public safety, recreation, jobs, economic development, healthcare access, small businesses, and whether these investments will reach communities here in Ward 8 and in the city. This is also a major transition election. Mayor Muriel Bowser is not seeking another term after 12 years in office. That means that voters will choose a new mayor at a time when the city is facing major challenges, and you all know what they are. The Democratic candidates on the ballot include Kenyon McDuffie, Renee Sampath, Gary Goodweather, Janice Lewis-George, Ernest E. Johnson, Hope Solomon, Vincent Orange, and any other eligible write-in candidate, some in which are here today, and they'll be talking with you about why you should write them in or why you should vote for them. So I want to thank all the campaigns because they actually, those who we'll hear from today on the stage made a donation to our Get Out the Vote efforts. Can you give them all a round of applause for that? It's not easy trying to get people out to vote in Ward 8 because, let's face it, there's some existential challenges that Ward 8 residents are facing. And so voting is the least of their concerns oftentimes. But we have to help them understand that voting is really the start of making something change for them and in their lives. So that's why we asked those campaigns to invest in us, and we are happy for that. So let's bring up our first conversation today with former council member Kenyon McDuffie. Well, thank you so much for being here. Kenyon, first of all, I want to say that you are running to lead this city in a moment when Ward 8 residents feel that the city is changing around them, but not always for them. What is your specific case to Ward 8 voters today?
So first of all, let me say thank you to Troy and all the Ward 8 Democrats for creating this forum for us to be able to engage with Ward 8. Let's give the Ward 8 Democrats another round of applause for everything they've been doing to make sure folks in Ward 8 are connected to democracy. So my case for Ward 8 is that I'm not just showing up for the first time as a candidate for mayor to Ward 8. I've been showing up to Ward 8 for as long as I can remember. I've been showing up to play sports in Ward 8 way back when you had the Boys and Girls Club there and there was a Safeway on MLK. I met my wife in Ward 8. My wife grew up around the corner in Congress Heights, right on Newcomb Street. I've been coming around Ward 8 since I can remember, and as a council member, I've showed up for Ward 8. I showed up for Ward 8 during some of the toughest times that y'all have had. when you all have lost people's lives to gun violence. I've supported your council members with resources and making sure that we can put economic activity and development into the community, create jobs for folks in Ward 8. I supported projects just like this. And I supported you all's businesses over the years as a council member. So I'm starting off by saying that as mayor, I'm running for mayor of Washington, D.C. to fight and deliver for all D.C. at a time where we have a president that doesn't care about our city. We got Donald Trump, who is working to really separate to embed ICE with MPD, creating an environment where people don't even want to live in Washington, D.C. right now, where our immigrant neighbors are living in the shadows, making sure that it's unsafe for communities across the District of Columbia. I've showed up for Ward 8 to make sure that we've had resources, not just downtown and building office buildings, but coming to this community as well. And I'm going to do the same thing as Mayor of Washington, D.C. I'm running to make this city more affordable, including in building the housing that we need, including when it comes to child care, so that people can afford to have their kids go to child care and be in the workplace at the same time. Yeah. I'm running to make sure that there's more opportunity that shows up in these communities so that y'all don't have to come to City Hall and ask for it. Yeah. And I'm running to make sure that we have a government that's accountable to people across the District of Columbia, including right here in Ward 8. What I'm saying is, I didn't just show up to Ward 8 today as a candidate. I've been showing up to Ward 8, and I'm going to continue to show up to Ward 8 as the next mayor of the District of Columbia.
Okay, all right. So you just talked about young people. You talked about investing in youth. If you become mayor, DCPS remains under mayoral control, but we know that half of our students are in charters, and so I'm curious about your take on two things. One, the charter versus traditional public school model, and how you will support that in terms of equity and funding. But then also, thank you. Okay, we want you to hear. But then the other thing too, Kenyon, is that do you support, and I want to shout out our school board rep here, LaJoy Johnson-Law. Hey LaJoy, wave your hand in the air. LaJoy is our school board rep here. Do you support some controls going back to the school board?
So what I support is school choice. I support a strong and vibrant school system for our public students across the city. That includes DC public schools and DC public charter schools. We have one system of public education, and I am 100% in support of it. And I've been supporting LaJoy and Jock and everybody else who has been representing our Ward 8 across the District of Columbia when it comes to our school system to make sure that we're doing this work through a lens of equity. I know that the national headlines have been saying how well DC public schools are doing, and it's true. We've seen a lot of gains over the years. We've been recognized as one of the fastest improving urban school districts in the country. We were just recognized recently as one of the fastest improving since COVID-19 pandemic. But the reality is, when you peel back the layers, some of those improvements have not been evenly distributed across the board, including right here in Ward 8. So I'm going to make sure that we are showing up in the way that I have, touring the schools with your school board representatives and visiting with your teachers and your parents to understand what your needs are. When it comes to in-classroom supports, early literacy, quality curriculum teaching, teacher retention in high-need areas, when it comes to attendance, showing up in elementary schools, making sure the kids are going to school across the board so that it doesn't turn into chronic absenteeism and definitely doesn't turn into truancy. We're going to make sure the resources reach Ward 8 schools, Troy, when it comes to renovating the schools, that you ought to get in everything that you need so that you feel safe on your way to school when it comes to safe passengers, just like I've been doing for the last several years, putting resources in the schools and out of school to make sure you get what you need so you can have the best quality schools as any school across the city.
But Kenyon, in terms of the school board, are you in favor of returning some controls back to the school board?
I mean, it depends on what you say about returning some controls.
You've heard the arguments.
I think this system is a good system, and I support the system we have. What we need is new leadership. I support putting in place a chancellor who's going to show up to Ward 8 regularly and engage with the parents and the students and the teachers and everybody else who is educating our students across Ward 8. I support a chancellor who's going to bring leadership that is really making sure that the resources touch every school in Ward 8 and that things are not inequitable. I support leadership that's not putting all the resources into the front office, but is showing up in the communities across the District of Columbia and working with the school board to make sure you get everything you need.
So that sounds like not quite.
I support our system of school choice that we have in place.
Right.
A strong, vibrant, robust DC public school system.
Right. School board, though, you're non-committed in terms of returning power back to them. That would be very clear.
I support LaJoya and everything that she's doing advocating for students in Ward 8 and all the work she's doing, particularly when it comes to special education, making sure that the resources go to where the need is, the transportation is where it needs to be, and making sure that our school system is strong. No matter where you live, no matter your zip code, you should have access to a quality education in your community.
Okay, let's move on. You have represented Ward 5, and you have served at large for a while now. Your campaign keep it all together here. Your campaign talks about affordability and public safety. What would be the first Ward 8 specific action that you would take as mayor that residents could see or feel within the first 100 days?
The first Ward 8 action that I would take as mayor so that residents can see or feel is to hold my first community meeting as mayor of the District of Columbia in Ward 8. I'm going to show up in Ward 8 like a mayor is supposed to and meet you all in your communities so that I'm not surprised by the things that you all are experiencing on a daily basis. Leadership is not about what you do simply at City Hall in the Wilson Building. It's about showing up in communities every single day. And the very first public meeting that I have in the community in the District of Columbia as the next mayor of Washington, D.C. is going to occur right here in Ward 8, meeting with Ward 8 residents and walking with Ward 8 residents and understanding Ward 8 residents' concerns and putting residents' concerns at the top of my priority list. We're going to make sure y'all are safe, y'all have quality education, and y'all are getting the jobs created that you need and connecting Ward 8 residents, including young folks, to those career pathways.
So, Councilmember, talk to me about public safety. That's one of the top issues that is resonating here in Ward 8. I know it's one of your issues as well. Many people here in Ward 8 say they want safety that is real and sustainable. What is your public safety plan for Ward 8? Does that include more police? Does it include violence interruption, trauma care, youth programming, accountability? Give me the list.
So when it comes to public safety, and the people who are talking are probably not the people that live in Ward 8 who care about safety. Let's be clear about that. The people that are making noise right now don't live in Ward 8. They don't care about safety. Because if they did, they would be listening to what I'm about to say. When it comes to public safety, it's about accountability and opportunity. When it comes to public safety, it is about quality, community-oriented policing with officers who are invested in communities, with officers who understand the communities, with officers who show up before a crime happens and understands what communities are experiencing. It's about quality, community-oriented policing where officers know the name of the senior citizen who sits on the porch and has been there for 30 or 40 or 50 years. Officers who show up who know the names of the young folks who are playing on the court and on the fields. Officers who show up who know the names of the shop owners along the corridors where you all live. So it's about accountability, making sure that when people commit crimes, Troy, they are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, and that accountability happens swiftly and certainly. But it's also about opportunity. It's also about showing up in neighborhoods and ushering in opportunity in a way that residents can really feel it, in a way that young folks know that they're being seen and they're being heard. I'm not just telling you what I'm going to do as mayor. I'm telling you what I've been doing as a council member, showing up across this city, including in Ward 8, with your council member, making investments in these neighborhoods. When I took over chairmanship of Judiciary and Public Safety, I held a meeting because we were having an epidemic in violence. That first meeting wasn't with people who live out of town. It was with people who were already doing work in neighborhoods across this city, including in Ward 8. That meeting had people like Ron Moten. It had people like Tony Lewis Jr., Silas Grant, Charles Thornton, and it had people like Trayon White before he was even on the council. I've been showing up for Ward 8, making sure that we understand the consequences of what neglect looks like when the government does not show up. I authored the Neighborhood Engagement Achieve Results Act that ushered in a public health-based approach to crime prevention and intervention, established the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and embedded community violence interrupters in communities across Ward 8. I made sure that the resources were getting to the organizations that are connected to communities in Ward 8, identifying young folks at the highest likelihood of committing gun violence, engaging them, putting them in a classroom setting, training them up, and connecting them with workforce development and jobs. Public safety is about accountability and opportunity. It's not about showing up when it's time for a campaign. I've been showing up in Ward 8 during the tough times and the good times.
So what do you say to voters here in Ward 8 who are concerned about being displaced? Some families here are worried about being priced out of the city. You know, short story, because, you know, I know you from way back when, but I remember
Troy and I went to Howard together. We had classes together at Howard.
Hey,
you know.
Gotta get it in. And your fellow candidate also, HU. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I just want to make sure that, you know, you understand the pressures that folks like myself and others, when we could leave, we can move out to Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, away from the region now. And so what do you say to voters in Ward 8 who are concerned about being displaced, who are concerned about what's happened with housing? We see rapid, the ERAP program is woefully underfunded. What do you say to that particular issue around housing?
What I say is that Washington, D.C. needs a mayor with a real plan for housing. I have a real plan for housing. I have a real plan for housing that's going to build 12,000 new units of affordable housing. It's going to preserve 20,000 existing units of housing, and it's going to build 1,500 new units of family-size housing so we can also keep families here. What I'm not going to do is tell you something that I cannot execute on day one. What I'm not going to do is tell you that we're going to build 72,000 units of housing when we're never going to do that, because that's a lie. And I'm not willing to lie to you. I'm going to be honest with you. I know that every single resident that lives in the District of Columbia deserves safe and affordable housing across the city. But for far too long, we've concentrated the construction of affordable housing east of the river. What we need to do is build more housing faster across the city so that all neighborhoods are helping to address the housing crisis that we have. That includes building affordable housing in other parts of the city, including west of the park. So I'm going to make sure that we cut down on the red tape that prevents people from being able to build housing in the District of Columbia today. We're going to cut down on the friction with government that prevents us from getting deals done. We're going to make the agencies that touch on housing work better and faster so that you can get the permits that you need to construct the housing that we need across incomes, including deeply affordable housing as well as missing middle, so that our teachers and our first responders, our firefighters, our child care workers, our health care workers, they can all live in Washington, D.C., and we're going to build that housing across every ward in our city to make sure that you all can also get the housing you need, including for sale housing, so that we're building multi-family rental and for sale housing so that people can live out their dreams of owning homes in the District of Columbia as well.
Now, in terms of developers, especially those who are shoddy developers, and we have a number of those here in Ward 8, will you hold them accountable?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I will. And here's the thing. What I do, I have a track record of holding people accountable across the board when it comes to oversight. And we're going to make sure that people who get a government benefit, who develop on government land, are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law with penalties that matter so that they feel it. If you don't deliver on the promises that you've made, then you're going to pay for it, and you're going to hurt because of your lack of accountability. We're going to make sure that we stand up to developers who are not putting the interests of DC residents first in a way that we have never done before. There will be consequences if you don't deliver on your promises.
So before we hear your closing argument, I want to ask you a fun question, which is that Ward 8, as those of you who live here and work here and worship here, you know that Ward 8 has some of the best views, the best culture, the best history. Hello, somebody, come on now. The best views, I said that twice because it really does have some of the best views. Where would you take someone out in Ward 8 to help them understand the soul of the city? You can't use this location here. You gotta use another location. Where would you take them out in Ward 8 to be like, yo, this is the soul of the city?
I would take them to Players Club.
Okay.
I'll take them to Georgina's.
Yeah.
I'll take them to make sure they have a good time and see some good people and see the heart of Ward 8. I would take them to a place that's been an institution in Ward 8 for years, across politics. It's a place where community really gets together. So that's what I would take them, Troy.
Okay, why Georgina's? Why Players Lounge? Tell me why.
Because you get the flavor of Ward 8 in a way that you don't get if you go to some new place. Now, look, I'll take them to Georgina's and then I'll take them down the street to some of the newer places too, right? Because I have helped to build and invest in communities, including in the intersection of Martin Luther King and Good Hope Road. I put money in the budget to make sure that we can keep WEOC Radio where it is, so we can have the Go-Go Museum where it is, so that we can have development right at that corner of Marion-Barry Avenue and Good Hope Road.
All right, I got you. So Players Lounge, and then you're gonna ride them down MLK toward Marion-Barry Avenue. I got you.
Sweet Tooth, keep it going.
You keep it going. All right. Listen, thank you.
And I've been to all those places, by the way. I've been to all those places, by the way.
Listen, thank you so much for engaging in this type of forum here, answering our questions. By the way, these questions came from Ward 8 voters, so thank y'all for sending those in. Mr. Kenyon McDuffie, I give you the last word. Take a couple of minutes.
So, Troy, again, thank you to the Ward 8 Democrats for this opportunity. Washington, D.C. is at an inflection point right now. We can move boldly into the future with leadership that fights back against Trump, protects our home rule, and creates neighborhoods that are safer, more affordable, and more opportunity-rich, with a government that is accountable to you, a government that uses the people's resources for the people's priorities. What we cannot afford is to elect somebody who's campaigning on empty promises, somebody who's campaigning on lies, somebody who's not showed up for the Ward 8 community in the way that I have. I have consistently shown up for communities across the District of Columbia. Even when I was a Ward 5 council member, it did not matter, because those borders are not real when it comes to the pain that people in Ward 8 have been feeling for decades. I've shown up with the people who are here, including the faith community, including your council member. I put money in the budget for resources for Ward 8, for economic development projects. I worked on the first tax increment financing in Ward 8 history. I supported this project right here. I supported connecting people with jobs in Ward 8 when it comes to RFK and other economic development projects. I have a track record of delivering real results for Ward 8 residents, just as I have for residents across the District of Columbia. And if you want a mayor who actually has a vision of economic growth with guardrails, who's going to make it more affordable when it comes to buying homes and living in the city, when it comes to child care and utility costs and groceries, then I'm your candidate. I'm Kenyon McDuffie. I'm #1 on the ballot. And I'm promising I'm going to deliver for Ward 8. I'm going to deliver for Ward 8. I'm going to fight for Ward 8 every single day, just like I have for 13 and a half years in this city. Thank you, Ward 8. Thank you.
So up next is the Ward 4 council member from the District of Columbia. Give it up for Janice Lewis-George. Thank you, Councilwoman, for being here.
Thank you, Troy.
It's great to have you here at this forum. Hey, I just want to jump right into what you just heard. I think you may have heard a couple of digs at you from the former council member there. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to correct anything that you may have heard.
Good afternoon, Ward 8. It's good to see y'all. My name is Janice Lewis George. I am a proud third-generation Washingtonian, a proud graduate of DC Public Schools, a proud graduate of the Howard Law University here in HU. I'm also a proud daughter of Union Temple Baptist Church, W Street, the daughter of Willie Wilson, Mary Wilson, and Anika Wilson Brown. So while Ward 4 is my residential home, Ward 8 has always been my spiritual home. And so for me, when I stepped up to run for office, it's because I believe that we deserve a leadership that is going to put people first. And for me, putting people first means three things. First, addressing this affordability crisis. Everyone is feeling the squeeze. Housing is too expensive. Child care is too expensive. Utilities are too expensive. And we deserve a leadership who's going to actually do something about it. I fought against rent hikes when they were trying to raise our rents up to 12% and stop it for families and for seniors. I stood on the line and I have voted against taking away TOPA rights, tenants' rights for families and communities, and utilize those rights to save my family's being home. We need leadership that is actually going to put money in the pockets of working families and Black people. I was proud to fund the Early Childhood Educator Pay Equity Fund so Black and brown women got the money they deserve. That's money going in their pockets. I was proud to fund the first earned income tax credit, the first basic income of its kind, where we put money in the pockets of working families. So you can trust me to stand up for affordable DC. We also need leadership that is going to address Trump and stand up for our community. We know I have authored the legislation to end cooperation between MPD and ICE. I didn't just say it when it was a political talking point. I was about it before that. I have stood on the ground in my community protecting Black, Eritrean, and Ethiopian residents who have been under Trump's attack and our Latino residents who've been under attack. And you can trust that I'm going to show up and fight against Trump because unlike Mr. McDuffie, I'm not taking Trump donor dollars. In fact, Jeff Wall is Trump's top attorney, and he is one of Mr. McDuffie's top funders. And he still hasn't given those Trump donor dollars back. Do not be dissuaded. I'm ready to stand up for our Black youth and not demonize them and use Republican talking points to arrest our Black youth and disrupt our Black families right here in Ward 8. Well, you can also trust me as People First Mayor to show up for this community because I remember me and Councilmember Trayon White when Anacostia Gray water system was turned over and the Early Childhood Center was closed. It was me and Councilmember White who stood at Anacostia demanding DGS to make a change. When Ballou HVAC system was not working, we went to Ballou and stood in the halls to make sure that our young people had our schools. Every elementary school in Ward 8 has been left behind. We went up there and said the HVAC has to be on, the doors have to be locked, right? So we know that we can have a mayor that puts people first in this city. Okay. And it's about time that we have that level of leadership. That's why I'm running. A true daughter of the district who's actually delivered for working families and working people, especially right here in this home of Ward 8.
In Ward 8, all right. So, Council Member, you mentioned this, I want to bring this up. So the city is facing an adversarial relationship with the federal government right now. It is unprecedented. I was talking to some of the elders the last time I can foresee this happening. We had the control board back in the 90s, of course.
That's right.
But before that, we're talking about maybe a good 40 or so years when we had the commissioner-style government. The current administration in the White House is threatening, as well as Republicans on the Hill, threatening that type of governance here in the city. How will you, as mayor, work with our federal government? I mean, they are a major part of Washington, D.C. You can't get around that. Absolutely. How will you work with them and to help them understand that we're partners in the District of Columbia, not adversarial?
Yes, thank you for that question. So as a daughter of the district, I think it's so important that we preserve our statehood and our autonomy. And I have a plan to do so. And I would never jeopardize our statehood and our autonomy, but I think we can have a strategy that isn't just supplying in advance. So what we're going to do is use every legal tool we have to fight back against this administration. I'm going to work with Attorney General Brian Schwab to make sure that we are in the courts fighting. I was the only council member who stood in the courtroom with Eleanor Holmes Norton and Brian Schwab when we went to court when they tried to overtake our police department. And I stood there with them, and guess what? We won and did not allow them to federalize the police department. So we know we can use legal tools. I'm also going to build relationships in Congress. I have been walking the halls of Congress myself, one of the only candidates that have shown up with Free DC in the halls of Congress, building relationships. Because the only thing protecting us from real autonomy being taken is that we don't have 7 Democrats in the Senate who will vote for Republicans. But we have the opportunity to have a federal affairs office, not one person, and I'm not talking about showing up to caucus happy hours. I'm talking about building relationships and saying, welcome to DC. I know you're here to serve your jurisdiction. Here's how DC is going to help you, and here's how we need you to help DC. And I know that is working because we've had conversations with several Congress people who told us that this is the first time they're ever hearing from DC leadership, ever. Even Hakeem Jeffries told me, us personally, that DC wasn't doing a good job building relationships with Democrats. I've been able to have conversations with purple jurisdiction Democrats like in Virginia, and I said to them, we need you voting with DC. They said, I didn't know that my vote against DC was so consequential. So we know we can make the case to fight for DC home rule. But I tell people, fighting back and fighting for your community doesn't mean that you're not able to work with any and everybody. I'm willing to work with anyone who's going to benefit the residents of DC, but I want to be clear that I will stand up to anyone who attacks our community. And I think it's important to note that the greatest threat to home rule is these pay-to-play politics that takes place when we have sports betting contracts that cost the city $200 million, right? When we have contractors who make $13 million off our city and then are arrested for fraud. We know that the mismanagement under the Business and Economic Development Committee, that level of mismanagement on the mayoral level is the greatest threat we actually have to autonomy and to a control board coming back.
So I want to just get you on the record here. Obviously, when Trump 2.0 came in, Mayor Bowser went and met with the president down in Mar-a-Lago. If you become mayor, will you meet with Trump either in Mar-a-Lago or at the White House?
I am not meeting with Trump in Mar-a-Lago. That's a no, right? I'm here to serve DC residents, and I'm saying right here in Washington, DC. But I will meet with him in our city, in the White House, and have a conversation with the administration. And I will let him know where our lines are. Our black youth, I will not negotiate and demonizing our black youth. I will not jeopardize our black seniors being able to stay in this community. I will not jeopardize home rule and autonomy. But if you want to work on something, Mr. Trump, federal land in the district, we can build on those things, right? We have the opportunity to make Union Station actually a regional transit hub in this city. We need him to develop Union Station and create over 6,000 jobs for DC residents. So if he wants to help us build and he wants to help us create jobs, then that's where we can meet together and use our federal land to create housing, to create art and creativity and music, and to support DC residents with safe places and green spaces.
As I said, Ward 8 is home to a lot of families with children that attend both public and public charter schools. How will you as mayor support both sectors? Will you work to integrate them a little bit better or not? And then also the same question I asked to your opponent, which is about the school board. LaJoy Johnson Law is in the back. She's listening very closely.
Yes, absolutely.
She's out. If you don't know who she is the Ward 8 school board representative to those of you who are new to Ward 8. And so I'm curious, they've been asking for a little bit more control. Would you work with them to do that?
Yeah, so education is one of the most important issues, and it's not been talked about enough. While I've shown up to every education forum because I wanted to know it was important that education was an issue I care about. And in addition to being all my roles, my greatest role is that I am Pierce's mother. And I look at that as I look at my 19-month-old son, I know that I'm gonna have to make choices about what schools he goes to. And I wanna make sure that he has options as a young black student in this city, no matter where he lives in the city, I want him to have options to education. So I think in our city, we have done a lot in education, but there are areas where we need to improve. On day one, I'm going to attack chronic absenteeism. Because guess what? If we can't close math and reading gaps if our children are not in school. So we have to deal with chronic absenteeism. I'm going to set one office responsible for chronic absenteeism so we don't have 5 different agencies doing it. I'm also going to implement home visiting, right? Because that's how you create accountability with parents and accountability with students. So if young people are not in school, that means we're showing up to your home and saying, why was your child not here, parent? And child, why were you not here? And if they need support and help, we're going to connect them to our amazing collaboratives. Ward 8 has the best collaboratives, some of the best collaboratives in the city, the Far Southeast Collaborative. We're going to connect those families to be able to get the connected services they need. We're going to address special education. We have failed, and I mean double F failed, in providing special education to our students here in DC. We rely on a reactive system. We make it so that families have to go to court and sue the system so they can get actual services through their individualized education plans. And let me tell you how that hurts families. Because what I saw when I was at OSSI as an assistant general counsel there was that families in other parts of the city had enough money to afford lawyers. But families in other parts of the city don't have money for lawyers. You shouldn't have to be wealthy and have a lawyer for your child's individualized education plan to be met. So my plan is going to be investing dollars in our special education teachers and our general education teachers getting the training they need to actually supply special education services and actually giving them the planning time and the concrete support they need in class and out of class to be able to deliver on students' individualized education plans. That is an area. But here in this ward particularly, we have 2 issues that I think is important. We have a middle school gap in this community. Ward 7 and 8 deserve middle schools that have the same supports and services as every other middle school. So to me, we have to address that, and government has to create a middle school for the families here that have STEM programming and STEAM programming and language and diversion and bilingual programming. And so I want to address the middle school gap, especially for these families, and I want to give our high school students at Anacostia and Ballou the opportunity to do what students other parts of the city do, to be able to get associate's degrees at Trinity University and Howard University and GW. And I also want to partner with labor. We're going to make it so that unions can come into the schools as early as 6th grade and connect our young people to jobs in the trades. So that way, at 6th grade, they see the opportunity ahead of them, and they don't jeopardize their opportunity by making bad life decisions. So in those ways, I want to be an education champion for our young people, and you can trust me to do that, because as facilities chair, I've gone to every ward in this city and made sure that our facilities were where they need to be, and I've shown up to every education oversight hearing for the last 6 years, because it's an issue I care so deeply about, and I can't wait to be a champion for all of our students, whether they're in DC Public School or DC Charter School. They all deserve the same investment and attention and real leadership.
You built your brand around progressive policy and structural change. Ward 8 residents often hear big promises from city leaders. We're used to hearing that. What would you say to a skeptical Ward 8 voter who is in the House today about how your plans will become real for them in their neighborhoods?
Yeah, I want to say this. Oftentimes people will talk about what they want to do, what they can do, what they should have done. But I believe, as my grandmother would say, right, you got to believe who people are by how they've shown up for you in the past. And I have been here on the ground supporting our Ward 8 families. The reason why I put money in the pockets of Black and brown women early childhood educators, because they were underserved. But many of the child care centers in Ward 8 have also been underserved. And when we put money in the pockets of their educators, we also made it a viable opportunity for those child care centers to grow. I was able to make sure we put money in the pockets of working families, the first basic income of its kind through earned income tax credit. People are getting that money right now every month because of those actions, right? When I did facilities work, I showed up at the schools and I didn't talk to the principals, I talked to the custodial staff, and they told me how the city had failed them. But what I want to be clear in this moment is, it is important that people have been told for years that things are not possible, that plans are not possible, yet they make it possible for everybody else except residents in Ward 8. And they want you to believe this lie right now, that, she has plans, but she can't get them done. Every plan I have set to do in the council, I have gotten done. My bills have actually been passed, funded, and implemented. The early childhood educators, the earned income tax credit family guns, those babies have been waiting for those baby bonds for years. That bill was never funded. We gotta be clear about who has actually had real impact. And I want you to know, people will say all of these things, but if they are bought and paid for by Trump executives and Pepco executives and union busters, they are not going to stand up for you. And so you need to choose people who are unbought and unbossed and unafraid to have the moral courage and the clarity in this moment to stand up and actually produce results for people in the
Councilwoman, thank you for that response. Councilwoman, actually, I wanted to go back to my previous question. I'm not sure if you answered. Maybe you did. I may have missed it. Would you support returning some power and authority to the school board?
Oh, I think we need to be collaborative with the school board, and they do need to have some more input and more power within our city.
Okay.
Now, I believe the chancellor should still report to the mayor because we have some work to get done, and we can't change the overall system right now, but we got to tackle special education, chronic absenteeism, the middle school gap, closing literacy and math gaps in our city. But I do believe that our school board should have a say in who our superintendent is. And work with the Office of State Superintendent of Education to make policies that impact young people. So I was proud to work. I'm proud to work with LaJoya Law. I've been proud to work with Carleen Reed.
I want to hop to the final question here, but thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I got you on the record on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the fun question before your closing statement.
Yeah.
I'm asking everyone this. Where would you go? Where would you take someone here in Ward 8 if you want to show them a good time? If you want to show them the soul of the city, where would you take them here in Ward 8?
Okay, well, first y'all need to come to church, Union Temple Baptist Church. Reverend Anika Wilson Brown preaches a good word every Sunday, so please come to Union Temple Baptist Church where we don't just teach, we don't just preach, we also teach who you are and whose you are. So I hope to see y'all on Sunday on W Street. Amen. Okay, thank you, first and foremost. I want to see people go to Frederick Douglass House. The reason I want people to see the Frederick Douglass House because oftentimes the story of Ward 8 and Anacostia is one that people lack. This is not a community that lacks. This is not a community that isn't brilliant. This is not a community of poor people. This is a community of rich people, rich in love, rich in community, rich in ideas, rich in power, rich in policy, rich in people. And I'm tired of this. And I'm tired of the story of Ward 8 being a woe is me. The story of Ward 8 is a story of power. It is a story of standing up. And the Frederick Douglass House really embodies that because Frederick Douglass tells us one thing. Power concedes nothing without a demand.
Absolutely.
So Ward 8, Frederick Douglass has given you your mission. Concede nothing without a demand and demand more from this city and demand more from your leaders.
Well, Councilman, you walked us into your final statement. Please talk to the Ward 8 voters as to why you should be selected as mayor.
Yeah. Well, Ward 8, people got their ballots in their hands. And there has been a lot of conversation about who is ready to lead. And I want you to understand that when I stepped up to run, I stepped up from a place of frustration and anger like many of you. Because I got a chance to run for office because I was pissed off that this city had left and displaced so many black and brown DC residents. I felt it when my mother, a graduate of Cardozo High School, a postal worker here in this city, was no longer able to afford to live in our houses. And I got tired of people talking about gentrification and displacement as if it was something that just happened out of happenstance. I want y'all to know what has happened in our city didn't happen by happenstance. It was people who got in places of power and made decisions about policies. Some of those policies like TOPA rights, where they took away leverage for black families to buy houses and took away leverage for black tenants to be able to stand up against landlords. Those are the type of policies my opponent has voted for. But then we'll say, I stand with DC. You gotta watch, not what people say, but what they do and the policies they put in place. And I'm okay to stand on my record of putting money in the pockets of black and brown residents and workers when they told me, and every single time they told me it was impossible. When I ran for office, they told me she can't win, and I won and made it possible. They said we couldn't have librarians in all of our schools, and I found the money and made it so we had librarians in all of our schools. They said we couldn't do a universal basic income, and now we have an earned income tax credit, putting money in the pockets of people. They want you. They are running this election on Republican tactics, which is to create fear within you. I want you to know, Ward 8, God didn't give you a spirit of fear, right? And when we go into the polls on June 16th, I need you not to go with that fear. I'm a former prosecutor. I know what it takes to make our communities safe. There's going to be accountability and responsibility. There's also going to be prevention and intervention work too. I'm the only one who has actually done criminal justice work in this city, and I know the solutions are in this room with the people in this room. So don't let them leave you in a place of fear. I'm ready to fight to make the city affordable for all of our DC residents, to make utilities affordable. And I have a plan. They said she don't have, how's she gonna do it? I told them how I was gonna do it. Then they said, how is she gonna pay for it? I told them how I was gonna pay for it. They have now run out of things they can say about this daughter of the district, because I have a plan to actually do it, a plan to actually pay for it, and a record of actually planning and implementing and getting things done. So Ward 8, I'm asking you to walk into these polls not in a spirit of fear, but a spirit of hope and redemption, because we deserve a mayor who understands that our black seniors deserve a place in the city they built, that our black youth have more promise than they have told on national news, that our black government workers, our teachers, our educators, our nurses, our social workers deserve a mayor who's going to give them the benefits they have worked for and they deserve. So that is what I'm asking you, Ward 8, to see this daughter of this district as someone you should be proud of, because it is the people in this room, it is the teachers in this city, it is the people and the leaders I've watched, and I believe a better DC is possible. And together, we are going to make a people first DC happen.
Denise, before we bring up our delegates, I do want to bring up, he's running uncontested, as is the representative, Franklin Garcia, but also Senator Paul Strauss. They're going to give you about 30 seconds each.
I think it's important that I have an opportunity to personally ask for your vote, whether I'm running with 10 names on the ballot or 1 name on the ballot. I'm not taking anything for granted. Representing this community is one of the most important honors I've ever had, and it means the world to me to be able to continue to serve you. And so,
we don't
whether I'm uncontested or hotly contested, I need your vote. I'm asking you personally, and if I'm lucky enough to get it, I'll know I've earned it. And I'm also honored to serve with Franklin Garcia, who's going to be our next shadow U.S. representative. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. When I say D.C., you say statehood. D.C. D.C. Thank you so much for having us out here. This is a beautiful venue, a beautiful place. I've always said that if you want to have a good event, you always come out to Ward 8, because this is where it's happening. Thank you so much for your leadership, Mr. President. Thank you so much. Folks, I'm not new to the fight. You know me, I've been around, I did this before. We managed to get it passed twice, not once, but twice in the House. We're going to do it again. Our path to statehood is clear. Elect more Democrats and we will get there. Is that clear? Are you with me? Are you with me?
We're with you.
We're going to get there, folks. We just need to make sure that while people like me who are not running against other people are going to invest this time in supporting our folks throughout the nation to go out and be and win seats as a Democrat. That's what we're going to do. People in Texas, in Pennsylvania, Virginia, all over the nation, we're going to get there, and we're going to make sure the Democrats get elected, because that's our path to statehood. Thank you so much, Franklin Garcia.
Thank you so much. All right, I want to just remind you all that the Democratic candidates for mayor include Kenyon McDuffie, Renee Sampath, Gary Goodweather, Janice Lewis George, Ernest Johnson, Hope Solomon, and Vincent Orange, as well as any write-in candidates that there may be. All right, moving on, delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives. This is one of the most important races on the ballot, especially at a time when home rule and local democracy is under attack. The delegate is DC's voice in the U.S. House of Representatives and really in Congress. The delegate can introduce legislation, serve on committees, debate, build coalitions, advocate for federal resources, fight for statehood, and defend the district when Congress attempts to interfere in our local affairs. But DC's delegate does not have a final vote on the floor, and that is the injustice at the heart of this office. For more than almost 35 years, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton has held this seat. Will you join me in just giving Congresswoman Norton an applause, a round of applause? She has fought for DC residents in a way that you can only imagine. She's fought for statehood, federal workers, civil rights, and local self-determination. With her retirement, though, this race represents a generational shift. The candidates on the ballot for the Democratic delegate are Kenny Zelezny, Robert White, Trent Holbrook, Brooke Pinto, Greg Zacco, and any other eligible write-in candidate. Today, though, we're joined by four: Brooke Pinto, Trent Holbrook, Robert White, and Kenny Zelezny. And we'll hear from them in that order. We have about 10 minutes to spend with our delegate candidates, and so I want to call up our very first candidate. It is Councilwoman from Ward 2, Ms. Brooke Pinto. Well, thank you so much, Councilwoman, for being here. We appreciate it. And I also want to just remind everyone that those who are appearing on stage did in fact donate to the Ward 8 Democrats Get Out the Vote effort. So please thank them when you see them out in the gallery. First of all, this seat, as I mentioned, has been held by Congresswoman Norton for over 35 years. Why are you the right person for this generational transition? And what would you do differently while honoring the importance of her office?
Good afternoon, Ward 8! It's so great to be here with you, Troy. Thank you to the Ward 8 Democrats and everybody who's come out today. This is such an important election. And the truth is, there's no comparison to Eleanor Holmes Norton. What she has done for our city, for our statehood mission, for civil rights, for women's rights, is unparalleled. And she has made all of us so proud to be Washingtonians. And I want to honor her legacy in the next era that we're entering. And you mentioned this generational moment. That's exactly what we're in. We are in a generational moment. I am proud to be the youngest member ever elected to the DC Council in our history.
So did you beat our own council member, Trayon White? Because he was the youngest at the time.
I did. I'm a little younger.
Who's in the back? Hey, council member.
But I think what's so important in this moment is that we can do and must do both. To honor our history and our legacy and make sure that who we are as Washingtonians can be maintained and celebrated, and to think to the future about how we're going to continue to succeed as a city. And part of that is getting more resources from the federal government so that we can all afford to live here, that we can have more resources come to our parks and our schools and our institutions. And that's something that this seat has to be laser focused on, both defending the district, but also proactively securing benefits to the district.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about those benefits. Many DC residents are federal workers, they're contractors, part of households connected to the federal government. How will you protect families from federal workforce cuts if you get on the Hill?
Well, what Donald Trump and congressional Republicans have done to our workforce is outrageous and illegal. We have had over 20,000 of our residents lose jobs through DOGE, as many of you know, and some of those are jobs working directly for the federal government, and even thousands more of contractors and associated jobs. And so one of the things I've tried to do on the council is use our vacancies in our local government to help provide job opportunities for some people who've lost their jobs. One of the things I know Eleanor Holmes-Norton, and shout out to Trent Holbrook, who works in her office, is fighting for back pay for those residents who have lost their jobs. But what I want to do in Congress is make sure that we bring in new industries that are in high growth areas to hire our residents. Industries like tech and healthcare and defense manufacturing and AI, so that the tens of thousands of people who have lost their jobs can get trained and work in these high growth industries and be a part of all of our success. And that is one of the most important things that this seat can do, is be proactive to attract those important industries, because jobs are so stabilizing for everything else we want to accomplish, and without bringing more job opportunities here, we're going to look back 10 years from now and really wish we had.
So let's talk a little bit about the federal government. That's the role that you seek to represent the district for. Now, right now, you mentioned that we have Republicans on the Hill who are adversarial to the District of Columbia. We also have an administration that has been adversarial to the District of Columbia. How will you work with Republicans on the Hill as well as the White House to ensure that DC doesn't get stampled on? And before you answer, I'm going to ask once again. If we can use our inside voice. Thank you.
Thank you. So the question is how we're going to work with an administration and congressional Republicans who have it out for us, who do not want us to succeed. And what I have found is that Congress is not a monolith. There are different things that drive different people. And so what I do now, today, is go to the Hill and meet with members and defend against some of these outrageous ideas that they are proposing. Some use logic, some use heart, some need to use other people who they rely on, but there have been dozens of proposals this year that I have worked to successfully stop. Whether that was their proposal to ever disallow the DC Council from changing our criminal laws, stopped. Their proposal to overturn our public safety laws, Secure DC, stopped. And so we have to be proactive. We can't wait until it comes to a vote. We have to make sure that we stop them from trampling on our affairs early. And I am not waiting until January to start that work. That's the work that I do today and every day to protect our city and our right to govern ourselves.
Let's talk a little bit more about Ward 8 specifically. It's home to a lot of federal land. The current Congresswoman has worked to get control of a lot of that land for the city. But that land includes major transportation corridors, the Anacostia River, the military adjacent communities here at Bowling, and neighborhoods affected by federal decisions. What federal issue affecting Ward 8 would you prioritize first?
So one of the most consistent pieces of feedback that I hear from Ward 8 families is wanting more spaces to play and be in community for all ages, for kids, for middle-aged folks, and for seniors. And one of the ways that I want to use this position to accomplish that is to transfer more of our federal park land to district control with funding so that we can use our park land and make sure it's properly maintained and that it's safe and enjoyable and a great place for all of us to be. I also want to pass my bill on the DC Council that opens up new teen centers in all of our quadrants so that we can have a teen center open in Ward 8 with a youth advisory board who is designing the activities to happen at the teen center. And that's where we can have a really important partnership with what we're doing locally and what I will be doing on the Hill, hopefully, with your vote, to make sure that those spaces are available and that we have the funding we need to make that a reality.
Would you work on the Hill to fund these get these teen centers funded separate and apart from the district's budget?
I will always look for creative ways to secure more federal funding. I think we are leaving billions of dollars on the table that can honor our families. There's a lot of different mechanisms to do that, and I will always look for how we can get the most funding possible for our city.
Okay. So before we close out, I wanted to ask you, which I've asked everyone so far, you know, Ward 8 is a great place to see the views of the Capitol where you want to end up. And it's also home to a lot of culture and a lot of just, you know, realness, if you will. If you were to come over here in Ward 8, where would you take someone to get the real flavor of Ward 8, the real flavor of DC?
Well, there is so much misunderstanding nationwide about who we are as Washingtonians. Even the way that this president talks about us is as though we are only the federal government. And I think it would be really important to show people who we are and what our culture is. And there's no better place that I can think of than taking them with Ron Moten to the Go-Go Museum and make sure that people not only can enjoy our music, but understand the history of the go-go music and who we are. And then I'd probably take them to D-City Smokehouse for some barbecue brisket.
They do have good barbecue. Well, thank you so much for answering our questions. These questions did come in from the public. I'll give you the floor to make your final statement to Ward 8 and why they should choose you to be the delegate.
Well, in that case, I'll stand. Well, thank you all for coming out today, and I'm so happy to see my colleague, Councilmember Anita Bonds, in the crowd. Give it up for Anita. And thank you. I'm so honored to have Anita Bonds' endorsement in this race. And I'm going to continue doing great things for the city. Appreciate you. So I am Brooke Pinto. I know many of you. You know I love this city. You know I care deeply about protecting our autonomy and making sure that we have the right to govern ourselves. You know I care deeply about every person's public safety because everyone has the right to be safe in our community. And it was our Ward 8 neighborhood walks that we went on over the last several years with many of you at 6 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon and 1 in the morning that said to me and pleaded with me, please do not go to sleep until you do something alongside us to help us with public safety. And that is what drove me for years to pass the most comprehensive public safety law in our city, to make sure that we are preventing crime before it happens, that we are holding perpetrators of violent crime accountable, and that we are better coordinating as a government. And you know I care deeply about our schools and our education system. And I can secure more benefits from the federal government to make sure that those mayoral candidates you just heard from have the resources they need to invest in all of our children and invest in all of our opportunities across the district. We have the most incredible city in the world. I am so proud to live here. I am so proud to serve you here. And I want you all to know that just as I've done every single day on the council and in the Attorney General's office before that, I will fight like hell on our behalf every single day in Congress to make sure that we all have the wins that you deserve. And so you might not have agreed with every single policy that I fought for on the council, but you know we fought and we won to get those passed. And I'm going to do that on behalf of all of us for our city in Congress. And so I need you with me. We've got 17 days left until the election. You can vote by mail, you can vote in person, you can vote on election day. Brooke Pinto, hope to have your support. Thank you so much.
We got something for you. All right, Trent, come on up. Thank you again for being here. Let's remind people you are running for the delegate to Congress for the District of Columbia. That's the seat currently occupied by Eleanor Holmes Norton. You have a very unique relationship with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. Why don't you start out telling us that?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for hosting this event. Thank you to everybody for being here. So I worked for Congresswoman Norton for the past 8 years, and I was on the front lines of every single major federal fight for DC's future, working side by side with her. we made historic progress on DC statehood, taking the DC statehood bill from losing 2-1 in 1993 to passing in the House. We fought a historic number of anti-home rule attacks. We stood up for our federal employees and done so much more, with me fighting side by side Congressman Norton. And not just that, as you mentioned, I've known her even longer. She was one of my professors in law school before that as well, so she and I go way back.
Well, let's talk a bit about home rule. Now, if you are elected to this seat, if Congress moves to overturn DC laws, block out budget, or interfere with public safety decisions, what is your strategy besides issuing a statement?
Sure. So the biggest thing is to work with our allies that Congresswoman Norton and I have been working on for so long. And so, as I mentioned, when I started the DC statehood bill, it lost 2-1. We got a record number of co-sponsors on the bill, and right now in Congress there are 207 co-sponsors of the statehood bill, when it only takes 218 to pass. And the way that we did this, we made this a national issue. We got over 100 national organizations to endorse the DC statehood bill, which made DC statehood the national issue that it is now and that it deserves to be. So the way that you fight these fights is largely the way that we've been doing it with Congresswoman Norton. You engage with those friends, you engage with your colleagues in Congress, you engage with those 100 national organizations, you engage with DC residents. I will say one of the most effective things that we saw in Congress was whenever Congress was trying to cut DC's local budget by $1 billion, we had school children going up and saying, we don't want to lose our teachers and have our teachers fired. And so having DC residents with all those great groups is incredibly effective. And so that's what I would do, is continue to work with those allies, just as I've done for the past 8.5 years.
Well, let's talk about statehood again. So every candidate that's running for this seat supports statehood, obviously. What would you do, to continue to build that coalition that the Congresswoman has done over the past 35 years with Republicans, by the way, in order to continue to progress the cause of statehood?
That's exactly right. And I'm the only candidate in this race who has done that for the past 8.5 years. And what you do is you use every single opportunity available to advance the cause of DC statehood. So if you have Trump that does something horrible and crazy to DC, as you see way too often, you stand up to it. But you also use those things to gain momentum for DC statehood and for DC home rule. So for example, whenever President Trump cleared Lafayette Square, whenever we had January 6th, we used that opportunity to pass in the House for the first time ever the District of Columbia National Guard Home Rule Act, which would give control over the National Guard not to the president, but to the mayor where it belongs. And so you use every single opportunity, whether it's good or bad, to keep making this the case for DC statehood and for DC home rule.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about federal safety, public safety rather, and civil liberties. You see what's happening with the deployment of alphabet soup law enforcement agencies, federal law enforcement agencies across the city, as well as the National Guard.
How over 2 dozen.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're going up, actually. I think I heard he wanted to increase those numbers. How will you really work with the federal government to decrease this law enforcement stature and posture without jeopardizing public safety?
So let's be clear. Our local laws should be enforced by our own local police officers. There are 2 dozen police forces that are already in DC. We do not need the President of the United States coming in and trying illegally to federalize the Metropolitan Police Department. And so I worked with Congresswoman Norton, and we've worked on the District of Columbia Police Home Rule Act, which would make it where the President could no longer try to federalize MPD, which he tried to legally do. And also, the last thing we need are National Guard troops on the streets, which he's again done illegally. But the only way that he can do this colorably is because we're in the District of Columbia, which is why we need to pass, as I mentioned, the District of Columbia National Guard Home Rule Act to give control over the Guard to the mayor. And the biggest thing is these are the prime examples for why we need DC statehood, because we do not need these federal agencies enforcing our local laws in a way that you can't do anywhere else. And we can also make the argument across the country on why this shows why we need DC statehood and to try to get empathy, because what happens in DC happens elsewhere weeks later. We saw this, for example, in California, where they brought out the National Guard there to enforce their laws, but the thing is that was on federal property, so they couldn't do it everywhere else. DC is treated uniquely and uniquely bad because we're not the 51st state.
Got it. Let me ask you about Ward 8 specifically. As I mentioned earlier, Ward 8 has a lot of federal land, federal properties, federal installation, including that big military one right across the avenue here. How will you work with the federal government to address Ward 8 concerns? We often have to complain about mail service in Ward 8. We often have to complain about, the National Park Service doing their job. How will you, as the congressman, I always want to say congresswoman, it's been so long since she's been in that office, how will you, as the congressman, help to address that?
So you have to be in the community. That's what Congresswoman Norton taught me. And she was so good about always being everywhere in DC. The good thing about being the DC delegate as opposed to a member of Congress from a different state is that you live here. You're not just traveling home on the weekends. And so the biggest thing that you can do is go talk to your constituents every single day and be in your neighborhoods every single day. And we were so good in Congresswoman Norton's office about taking constituents' concerns and relaying it to the federal government and getting actual real results. We had numerous meetings with the Postal Service, as you mentioned, about concerns right here in this local area about why the mail wasn't being delivered. We held them accountable and it got better. And it's all the way from that to, for example, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, which houses DC Code residents who are who have violated the DC Code. And so those people are frequently across the country. And so you have to watch every single day, see where they are, and that's what we did, making sure that they were close to DC and in facilities that were safe. And so the biggest thing is just being there, being in the community, and being that voice on the Hill and being the voice with federal agencies.
All right, so Ward 8 has some great views. I've been asking everyone about this, great culture, great history here. If you were gonna take your campaign or, a significant other or a family member or just a visitor to a place in Ward 8 to just show them what's great about our city, where would you take them?
I would do two things. Players Lounge, because of course, you have to say that. It's so wonderful and good. And then the other would be Frederick Douglass House, just because of the amazing history there, and because he's the namesake that's going to be what our new state is going to be named after, and because of his great history and his standing up for DC well before DC statehood has become this national issue that it is now.
Got it. All right. Well, listen, take a little moment here to make your closing argument to Ward 8 voters why they should select you as the next delegate to the U.S. Congress.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you again to everybody for being here. As I said, I'm the only candidate in this race who spent every day of the past 8 years working side by side with our warrior on the Hill, with Congresswoman Norton, fighting on every single major federal issue impacting the district. When I first started with Congresswoman Norton, the DC statehood bill had been voted on one time in 1993, and it failed 2-1. They lost half the Democrats on the vote. We worked together to make it a national issue. We got 100 national organizations to endorse the bill, and because of that work that we did, we took the bill from losing 2-1 in 1993 to passing in the House twice. And I'm the only candidate who has that experience of delivering for DC every single day. We increased DC TAG awards, for example, by 50% when so many other programs were being cut. I stood side by side with Congresswoman Norton fighting every single anti-home rule attack that we've seen, and they're just going to keep on coming. So we need somebody who knows what the seat is about, who knows how to deliver for DC at the federal level, and we need somebody who has been there fighting every single day on these complicated and critical issues. And so that's why I'm asking for your vote.
So give it up for Robert White, Kenny. Thank you so much. Tell me the significance of that song to you.
I used to live on 27th and R Street when I worked for Congresswoman Norton. That was when Obama was running for president, and I worked for Illinois, and I drive from Southeast to the Capitol, and I would just play that song. That would get me ready for a long work day. I'm gonna put on for my city and Congress.
I love it. I love it. Great song right there. Well, first of all, I'm gonna start off with the question I've been asking everyone running for this seat, which is 35 years for Eleanor Holmes Norton. Talk to me about the significance of this generational change here. You also used to work for Congresswoman Norton, so talk to me about that relationship. And if I'm not mistaken, were you the first to hop out there and say you were running for that seat? Or one of the first? Okay.
I was the first to declare.
Okay, gotcha.
My plan this time last year was not to run for delegate, but I've seen what the rest of us have seen, which is that there's a real chance that we won't have a mayor or council much longer if we don't have somebody in Congress fighting this fight. But we are also in an intersection of history. Books will be written about this time because we are either going to go the direction of protecting democracy or in protecting black people and black communities, or we're gonna have Trump and these Republicans run over us. So I realized that this is the seat that I need to run for. Now, I'll close with this. When I lived in Southeast and started realizing how inequitable things were in the city, and that I was thinking about leaving her office to run for Congress, nobody knew my name. Nobody knew who I was. Yesterday, Congressman Jim Clyburn endorsed me and said, Robert is the future of black leadership in our country. And so we have come in a phenomenal long way, but I'm excited about this fight.
Well, we hope that he can keep his seat, because they're trying to redistrict him out of his seat in South Carolina. But that's a good deal right there. Talk to me a little bit about your vision around home rule. If Congress moves to overturn our laws, block our budget, or interfere with public safety decisions, what's going to be your strategy? We can't just issue a statement anymore. We have to actually take it to the streets.
We need action right now. So there are a couple things that are really important about my vision for this seat. One, I'm going to raise this to a seat that has a national profile. People across the country cannot support an issue that they don't know about. So across the country, people are going to know me as DC's delegate. They're going to know DC and how we are disenfranchised. But the other thing I realize is that our home rule rights are going to be determined by the outcome of the midterm election. So my work starts on June 17th, the day after the primary. When we win, we're going to start mobilizing residents across the nation to make sure Democrats win back control of Congress, because that is the best thing we can do to protect DC's home rule.
Got it. You know the district has a lot of federal workers here, contractors, people who are connected in some way to the federal government. You know, this past year and some change hasn't been the best in terms of federal job cuts and DOGE and, you know, the federal law enforcement interference. Talk to me about your strategy as the delegate to the district to push back against these changes.
So I know families that are very close to my family, where one has a dad who had just started working for the federal government. He got DOGE, lost his job. I'm not sure how they're going to keep paying their mortgage. Another family, equally as close, the mom was a contractor, lost her job, and just 2 months ago got a job after about a year of unemployment with a kid going to college. So we have to take this seriously. If Democrats win back control of the House and ideally the Senate, we're going to have to restore our federal jobs, but around a clear vision to attract people in. We also cannot depend on the federal government to bring all of the jobs that we have lost. So I have a strategy to bring tens of thousands of jobs to downtown DC and to across the district and the region, working with our regional members to do that. So creating federal tax incentives for businesses to relocate to DC so we have more jobs for our residents. Getting federal funding that other jurisdictions get when they close military bases because they lose so many jobs. We've lost more jobs than any military base closure. So this region should be getting federal funding under that same principle. So I'm going to get us funding to restabilize our economy, federal tax incentives to bring jobs back, and fight to re-expand the federal workforce.
You work with Republicans in the House to do this, and the Senate to do, and the President to get these types of bills passed?
Some of the bills I do think we will get Republican support on. So look, there are, believe it or not, there are members of Congress who have business interests in some of the buildings downtown, so they don't want them empty either. So I do believe on the economic stimulus, we can get Republican support. But we have to be very clear about where we are. On things like DC statehood, for the foreseeable future, there will not be any elected Republican support.
You mentioned the federal support and resources. Talk to me about what that looks like here in Ward 8. Can that look like more investment in infrastructure, in the environment, in small businesses, healthcare? What does that look like for Ward 8?
So where we are sitting right now used to be federal property. I was the staffer for Congresswoman Norton, who was the lead staffer on getting this St. Elizabeth East transferred to DC. And look at what we have now, right? This has created jobs and stimulus. Across the street is the headquarters for the U.S. Coast Guard and the Department of Homeland Security, which brings people into the community. Unfortunately, they're behind the wall.
again, Congress, Ward 8 has a lot of federal lands, federal installations here. We need really good leadership in Congress on this.
So I believe that we should have a strategic economic plan for Ward 8, and that it shouldn't be here's what we want to accomplish in 10 years. It should be here's where we will be in 10 years, and here's the mile marker every single year to let us know we are on track. What we lack is accountability. Everybody who runs for office says, I'm going to do this for Ward 8, I'm going to do that for Ward 8, and things are not changing fast enough, and we need more accountability there. We can create a deputy mayor for East of the River, and then it disappears. Like, there has to be more accountability there. The delegate should be part of that plan. So the delegate working with the mayor, the Ward 8 council member should be developing that plan, and I am 100% committed to moving that. The other thing that I can do, and this is something that I borrow from Congresswoman Norton, is work with our Ward 8 businesses to get onto the federal supply schedule. So if you sell toilet paper, you got a hauling truck, you got a construction business, you should be getting money for federal projects. And that's something that I will be able to help you with as delegate.
You mentioned, and I mentioned at the top, and you just mentioned a moment ago that you work with Congresswoman Norton in Congress. Can you talk just a little bit? I know Trent also worked with her as well. A little bit about what does this mean as far as this shift? Her leaving, I know we all gave her a round of applause earlier, but this is a big change, man. Like, we got to get used to, a new face representing DC.
So the best way to honor somebody's legacy is to build on top of it. We don't have to rebuild the foundation that Congresswoman Norton built. But the risk we run is somebody in that seat, a seat that has tremendous power because she built it, but that power doesn't exist in law like most other members of Congress. So if the next member of Congress doesn't know the power she has accumulated, they will lose it. And it will take us another several decades to reaccumulate it. So you need somebody who on day one knows that when there's a Democratic majority in the House, they, by tradition, allow you to vote on amendments on the floor. You need to have someone who knows on day one that when there's a Democratic president, they allow you, like senators, to recommend federal judges. And we see the impact that has on communities like ours. You have got to have somebody who knows that seat and knows how to use it, but also how to modernize it for a new day. This is a new day, and we can do some things differently.
Before we close out, can you tell us where you would take your beautiful wife, Christy, who I know, and the girls, and just anybody who you're bringing to the city? Where would you take them in Ward 8 if you want to really show them the fire that makes up DC?
No, I appreciate it. We'd have a good time in Ward 8. I was asked this question here a few weeks ago. I appreciate Trent borrowing my answer. I'm taking you to the Players Lounge.
It's a new answer. If you said that answer, we could give us something new.
It's something new? Okay, but I do like the Players Lounge. So, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take them to Anacostia Park. We're going to go skating. But then I'm going to take them to the office of the Informer. Because right now, black news outlets are more important than they have ever been. So that's where I'm taking them.
Okay. Make your closing statement to the Ward 8 voters as to why they should select you to be their next delegate.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate you coming out today. We are in a moment of history that matters more than most. This is a moment that matters more than any other time, probably since the Civil Rights era. Because we are in a time where we have a president who is openly trying to destroy democracy, who is openly promoting racism, a president who's a U.S. attorney is on one hand saying, I'm going to show you how tough on crime I am by arresting young black kids and arresting their parents, but not tough on crime for the people who stormed the Capitol and they pardoned. In a country where you have never been able to have a serious conversation about reparations, but the president is about to get $1.8 billion to give out to people who are his friends, including those folks who killed police officers, who caused traumatic brain injuries. We need somebody in this civil rights seat, in this voting rights seat, who is going to fight the fight for today. Now, I'll say this. I was in a debate yesterday where all the candidates running for this office said, yes, this is a civil rights and a voting rights seat. But one of those candidates tried to pass a bill to allow search and seizure, warrantless search and seizure,
tried to pass a bill to allow the police to collect DNA from people who are arrested, not having been charged. Another candidate on that stage who in the first debate said the reason Congress is trying to take over DC is because the council went too far when they said over-incarceration is not going to make us safe. And another candidate who said the way that the federal prosecutors are prosecuting juvenile crimes is not a federal issue. I said that's because you've never been in handcuffs because of the color of your skin and because you dress like the rest of your friends. This is a civil rights moment, and we need a civil rights leader. And it don't mean you gotta be black, but it does mean that you gotta show up the way that you came in. Not like some kid's birthday party when you put on a costume and then you leave the room and you take that costume back off and you are no longer about civil rights. This is a serious time, a time for a serious candidate. I am asking for your vote in this straw poll. I'm asking for your vote on June 16th, and I'm saying let's get to work because we have work to do. Thank you and God bless.
Also running for delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives is Kenny Zalesny. Bring her up now. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. And again, we thank all of our delegate candidates appearing on stage for donating to the Ward 8 Democrats GOTV efforts, including you, candidate Zelensky. So let's get started. I've asked everybody this question so far, and it is about this generational shift that's going to happen in the U.S. House delegate seat for D.C. Eleanor Holmes Norton is retiring after 35 years. Speak to that legacy and also why you are the right one to replace her.
Great. Thank you, Troy. And hello, Ward 8. I first met Eleanor Holmes Norton in 1995 when I was working in the White House, and she was 4 years into her service as DC's delegate. I had huge respect for her then. I have huge respect for her now. And I want to say something important about her background. Eleanor Holmes Norton didn't come up through DC Council. This seat has never been a stepwise promotion from DC Council. I know my opponents in this race want you to think that Congress is just some kind of varsity city council and that they should just slide up into that seat because they've been legislating here. But that's not the job. It has never been. And the reason Eleanor Holmes Norton was so successful, so fierce, so powerful, and so inspiring to us in DC is that before she came into that job, she had worked on the national stage. She had built national networks. She had built a national reputation. And when you don't have a vote on Capitol Hill, you need to use other tools. She used her network. She used her relationships. She used her national gravitas. The other candidates in this race don't have any of that. But I have been working on the national stage for 30 years and winning for DC in that time. I worked in the White House. I was counsel to the Attorney General at the Justice Department. I ran a nonprofit in DC. We helped thousands of black and brown students be the first in their families to go to college. And we took that program national. And Barack Obama noticed and gave us a big portion of his Nobel Peace Prize money. And also on the national stage, I ran the strategy team at Microsoft, and I was co-chair of Women for Kamala Harris. Those relationships are what's going to get DC access, going to get audiences for this city, and help us win our fights.
Excellent. Let me just ask that we remember in the back to keep our voices to our inside voices. You're doing a good job, by the way. Just I want to remind you, okay? So, Kenny, let's talk a little bit about your background. It's in policy, advocacy, civil rights reform. You just talked a little bit about that. How will you turn that experience into power for DC in Congress, where DC often starts without a vote?
Yes. So let me tell you the story of my college access nonprofit, because we worked with every high school in the city, including Anacostia, Ballou, Eastern, Dunbar. We worked with seniors across every high school. And let me tell you what our story was. We knew that there were high school students in this city who could make it in college, but they weren't making it to college. And we had a second insight. So that was the first. The second one is that the most influential person in the life of a 17-year-old is another 17-year-old. So we took those talented kids and we taught them in an intensive way how to do their college application process. And then we taught them how to teach their peers. And through that, we changed the college-going culture in this city. The college enrollment rate of high school graduates in this city used to be under 40% when my program started. We boosted it to over 60%. And then we took, and that happened across DC, and then we took it elsewhere. We took it to Chicago, we took it to West Virginia, we took it to New York. And that's what Barack Obama saw when he was president and said, this program matters, this insight is right, what happened in DC can grow and happen elsewhere in the country, and that's why he gave us a big piece of his Nobel Peace Prize money. Now, I'm telling you that story because that's how you build power in Congress. Well, we started in that little nonprofit in a basement of the Jubilee Housing Project Teen Center. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any name recognition. We didn't have any formal power. What we did was we saw the nugget of the value in those teenagers, and we built a coalition to support them. The coalition was parents, businesses, schools, foundations, and ultimately Congress itself. We built that coalition. When you're DC on Capitol Hill and you don't have formal power, that's what you do. You build allies and partners, and you bring them to your side. That's what I've been doing for 30 years, and that's what I will do for DC as your delegate.
The unemployment rate in DC is higher than the national average. The unemployment rate in Ward 8 is about double that. And then the unemployment for black people is above that number. And so I'm curious if you were to get in, black people here in Ward 8, I'm curious if you were to get into this seat, how will you use that role as the delegate to push for more funding, more opportunities, job training? We need the cavalry here,
yes,
Kenny. And so what will you do in that seat to get people to get investments in the people right here in Ward 8?
Troy, the reason those numbers are so high is because this city has suffered a deliberate, malicious, frontal economic attack by our president and the MAGA Republicans. And it's not a coincidence. They have deliberately tried to dismantle all the progress of the civil rights movement. They look at DC and they see it as a place that built a black middle class off the back of the federal government, and they said, we don't want that. They have deliberately tried to dismantle it. So we have got to fight back against that. Now, let me be clear about how you fight back. Number one, you recruit all the allies and partners in the Democratic Party, which has not been good enough to us. You enlist those partners to fight with us and for us. But the other way you fight back is we have got to wean ourselves off of the federal government. We learned this year the hard way that we're a company town and the company hates us. And we can't sit by a second time and let that happen. So how are we going to do that? We have to, now this is going to sound familiar because two other people on the stage just said this. We're going to need to bring new industries into this city besides the federal government. But you know what's different between me and the other two people who just said that? They don't have any idea how to do that. I am the only one in this race who has any business experience at all. I used to run the strategy team at Microsoft. And during my tenure, Microsoft became the most valuable company in the world. I know something about job creation. I know something about the AI revolution that we are experiencing. And if DC is going to come out a winner on the other side, we are going to have to bring those jobs here. That if we just think we can be a 20th century economy where the only employers are, and the only industries are government and tourism and restaurants, It's not true.
What else would you bring?
We have to develop a local startup tech scene here, which we have the raw ingredients to do. We have great universities. We are a place that young people want to live. If they were born here, they want to stay here. If they weren't born here, they want to come here. And we need to have jobs for them. Look, there are a lot of terrible things about AI, but one of the good things is that it will enable some students to leapfrog some of the historic skilling and training that have been required to succeed in the workforce. AI will enable some students to get farther faster. And we need that for our kids in Ward 8 and across the city. Because there will be new jobs available if we're smart about how to develop a homegrown tech scene. And we have to bring the big businesses here. Amazon created a second headquarters, but they went to Northern Virginia. They didn't come to us. We can compete better for this. And small businesses, which make up the bulk of our economy outside of government, they don't thrive unless there are big businesses that they can be part of that ecosystem. I'm the only one with business experience in this race. So the others can talk about, oh, we're going to bring new jobs and we're going to diversify the economy, but they have no idea what they're talking about. They have never done it, and I have.
Let me ask you what I've asked everyone, which is where would you take someone here in Ward 8? Can't use Sycamore and Oak, but where would you take someone here in Ward 8 if you want to show them a good time with the soul of the city? Where would you take them?
All right, I know you said don't say Sycamore and Oak, so I won't, but I do want to tell you something. I was first in this race. I know you asked Robert if he was, but he was not. I was the first one to get in this race.
Thanks for clarifying that. Okay.
On July 21st, 2025. On July 22nd, the next day, I came right here to Sycamore and Oak. This is where I launched my campaign. And on that day, I met Jamar Gage, who was working at that juice bar, and we became friends, and he became my very first campaign supporter, and he is still one of my biggest fans, and I'm so glad to see you, Jamar. So I do come here, and I have the best and fondest memories. But
any place else?
Yes. All right. I would take my...
And very quickly, because I got to get to your final statement.
Mama's Kitchen for some pizza, and we'll go have a picnic in Anacostia Park.
All right. Well, Kenny, thank you for the chat. I'm going to give you the last moment here to make your case to D.C. voters, Ward 8 voters, as to why you should become the next candidate or the nominee for a delegate to Congress.
All right. Thank you, Troy. Look, to me, there is one question that should be in the minds of Ward 8 voters and voters across this district. And here's the question. Do you want everything to be the same, or do you want change? Do you want to just go in a straight line in the direction we're heading, or do you want something new? Because if you want the same thing, if you want the unemployment rate we've got, if you want the crime rate we've got, if you want the oppression by the federal government, then stick with the DC council members who are already part of the 16 people who run this city. And just keep on promoting them to a job they're not qualified for. But if you want something new, if you want new business opportunities in this city, if you want someone who has real and deep and widespread and long-standing relationships with the people on Capitol Hill who will do something for us, then vote for me. I am number one on the ballot, not only in this race, but the entire ballot. Open up your ballot. The delegate race is first. My name is first among the delegates. So the very first name, Kinney Zalesny, you can't miss me. I ask you please to rank me number one on June 16th. We can make a big difference in this city, but not if we just keep recycling the same people who've been leading their whole careers. It's time for something new in this city, and I have the political and the business relationships that can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Kenny Zalesny. They also help determine where our city dollars go. At-large council members are elected citywide. They do not represent just one ward. They represent the entire district, including Ward 8. That matters because Ward 8 needs citywide leaders who understand that equity is not just a word. It is a budget choice. It's a policy choice. It's an oversight choice. So this is another open seat moment. Councilmember Anita Bonds is not seeking re-election after 13 years on the council. And that creates a major opportunity for voters to decide what kind of city leadership we need next. We are blessed to be joined by Councilwoman Anita Bonds, who is here. Please stand up and take a bow, Councilwoman. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Councilwoman Anita Bonds, who is retiring. And is the only reason why this seat is open. Otherwise, it wouldn't be open. Ain't that right? Got it. So the Democratic candidates on the ballot for at-large include Dwight Davis, Candace Tiana Nelson, Laniqua Dominique Jenkins, Fred Hill, Oye Awolowo, Dania Forrester, Lisa Raymond, Kevin B. Chavis, Greg Jackson, and any other eligible write-in candidates. Today, we're going to be joined by Greg Jackson, Deanna Foster, Kevin Chavis, Laniqua Dominique Jenkins, Lisa Raymond, and Candace Tiana Nelson for a quick 5-minute rounds here. We're going to get them in and get them out. So, bringing up to the first to our stage is Greg Jackson. But Greg, thank you so much. We've known each other for a long time, and so it's really good to see you stepping up in this way to make your voice known and to talk about these issues that matter to you here and matter to Ward 8 and to the city at large. Let me ask you about this. The council makes very tough budget decisions. This year is no different. What is the one Ward 8 investment you will fight to protect and why?
I would definitely fight to protect affordable housing in Ward 8. Right now we have an affordability crisis. If we were a state, we would be ranked 49th. And when we think about why affordability is so tough in the district, cost of the living is what's really swallowing us and suffocating so many of us. And so we have to continue to invest in affordable housing and opportunities for people to become homeowners and stay homeowners in Ward 8.
Yeah. Let's hang out there a little bit around affordability. You said we're 49th in the country. How did we get here?
Well, I think we've had a philosophy where we focus more on rentals and not ownership. Only 41% of DC residents are homeowners. And whereas most major cities, we're at 65%. And so when we think about the gentrification that's happening, so many people that have been moved out to Maryland, it's because they haven't been able to buy a home, stay in a home, or keep the home. And so I want to focus on that as a council member, on making sure that we increase the housing supply, but we also create more home buying assistance programs, as well as helping to preserve those who already have homes. I was in Hillcrest today, met at least 12 older voters, older residents and neighbors, and their biggest concern was property tax and repairs of their homes. And we as a district should fight to keep them in their homes, just like we fight to keep people from being evicted. We should fight to keep people from being foreclosed upon.
Well, one of those ways we keep people in their homes is that they have jobs. And many residents are asking not just for development, but they're asking for pathways to good paying jobs. What would you do to strengthen that workforce development, that pathway toward getting a good paying job here in the district?
Yeah, there's two sides to it. So 95% of the businesses in DC are small businesses. So the best way that we can create jobs is doubling down on what we know already works. Investing in restaurants like Dion's, like D-City Smokehouse, like Sapadilla's, like Mama's Kitchen, we said earlier. We have to make sure we make DC the most attractive place in the country to open your business. And right now it's not. And we're losing so many of our businesses to Virginia and to Maryland because there's just too much red tape. There's too many permitting and too many fees that small businesses have to go through. And frankly, I own 2 small businesses. And the only time I hear from the government is when it's tax season. And we know that's a huge challenge. So the way that we create jobs is by making it easier for small businesses to open. We also have to strengthen the #1 employer in the district, which is the hospitality industry. And so I think that we need to focus on how do we bring more people into the district to enjoy the district, but also we create more jobs in hospitality to build on a real industry that we know we can rely on outside of the government, which we know has been really challenging with the Trump administration.
Well, hang out there with me a little bit around small businesses. I'm a small business owner as well. And you're right, we hear from the government when it's time to pay that tax bill. I just heard from them, and they had to pay the tax bill.
Me too.
You know, and so I wonder, what would you do as a councilman, because you have to work with the mayor. right? And we have some people on the stage here who want to work with you. So what would you do as the council member to work with the mayor and the mayor's agencies in order to cut the red tape, as you said, and to make it easier to build and stay here in the district as a business owner?
I think right now we have to make sure that we shorten the time it takes for folks to get their permits when they're trying to open their business. I also think we need to lean into incentives that other cities have done. Other cities are providing grants. They're providing a first-year waiver of all the different fees that folks have to go through to open their business. And that's the type of momentum we're going to need in the district.
What cities are those?
Right now in Maryland, if you open a small business, specifically a brick and mortar, there's a $2,500 grant. Places like Oakland, they will waive your first year free depending on how many jobs you create. And so we have to think about models like that. If a business is coming here and creating jobs, we should celebrate and incentivize that. I also think, though, we need to also pour into more workforce training and make sure that our residents in Ward 8 especially have the tools and resources they need to be competitive for these jobs. With all the federal layoffs that we're seeing, almost every waiter has a law degree now, right? And so we have to make sure that our own neighbors here have the skills and resources they need to be as competitive as possible.
What agency would you want to work on to hold them most accountable to Ward 8 residents?
I think the big one, because of the urgency right now around jobs, and I don't know if folks know this, we have the highest unemployment of any major city in the country right now. And so I do think that's the most urgent thing to focus on. Therefore, I would like to work with DOES. When I was in the deputy mayor's office about 8 years ago, I worked very closely with DOES. And one of the biggest challenges we saw is that for every person that was looking for a job, they only had one job available. And so it's not just helping develop and strengthen and prepare people for jobs. We've got to attack it on both ends. But I do think workforce training is what's probably most important for Ward 8.
Speak to me about public safety, education, those areas, those usual buzzwords. How do they resonate in your campaign for Ward 8 voters?
Well, look, the reason I'm even in public service is because in April 2013, I was shot and nearly killed. And the bullet that hit me hit 2 arteries, and I spent 6 months in the hospital. And it took me 9 years to get a police report. No one called and checked on me. And nor did they care about what happened to me. In that year, over 500 people have been shot. And based on that trend, right now, over 5,000 DC residents have been impacted by gun violence directly. This is still the leading cause of death for youth in this city, for black men in this city. It's the leading cause of newly disabled residents in our city. And right now, public safety has to be a major priority. That's why I poured 13 years into moving forward public safety policies. I passed laws in 31 states. I led the charge to pass the first law on gun violence in 30 years, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, through Congress, and got 13 Republicans to support that. That bill made gun trafficking a federal offense. It created the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It put $2 billion into community violence intervention. It strengthened victim services. And as a result of that law, President Biden appointed me to be his advisor on all things gun violence prevention. So the President of the United States literally put me in charge of making our country safer. And in 3 years, we reduced homicides by 49%. And nationwide, we are actually living in the safest era in American history. But in that same time, DC has not stepped up to the plate. My mentee, DeMarcos, in Woodland Terrace was shot and killed. This was an honor roll student, someone who even helped me advocate for policies in Congress. And he lost his life with the council that we're seeing right now. When I live in Congress Heights. While I was serving in the White House, y'all, in the White House, living in Ward 8, serving in the White House, my home was shot up 13 times. And I got a call from law enforcement that said, Mr. Jackson, we need to do a report. Your house has been shot up, and I'm sitting in the West Wing. And that is outrageous. And so we are in a time where we know that there are strategies that work, and that we know that there's a way to reduce violence and make our communities safer. Baltimore's doing it, Detroit's doing it, Chicago's doing it, but we have not adopted those same strategies. And when I was in the White House, I invited council, I invited our leaders to come in to learn about these strategies. And we did not have the follow-through and the response that we wanted. But other cities stepped up to the plate. Baltimore, St. Louis, Memphis, Chicago. And I helped those cities literally become safer. And that's why those mayors are endorsing me. I have 8 mayors across the country endorsing me. Not because they're my friends, but because I helped them make their cities safer. And they want me to do the same here.
What did we not do during that intervening time that these other cities did? Because I'm familiar with these stats. What did we not do? What were we not doing as a council, as a mayor, as a city? Very quickly, Greg, in terms of, having the same type of outcomes we've seen elsewhere.
Yeah, well, I want to shout out Robert Butler. That's my guy right here. We were in the Office of Neighborhood Safety together, part of my time in DC government. This guy literally saved dozens of lives, so please give Robert a round of applause. Maybe more than that. But when we were there, we did not have the resources we needed, right? We did not have a big enough team to intervene and stop violence. We had me and him riding around in the van, working with 20, 30, 40 different at-risk youth and young men, but we were outnumbered. And we haven't had the funding. If you look at DC, we put $25 million into the Office of Neighborhood Safety, right? If you look at what Baltimore is investing in, they're putting over $200 million into their public safety infrastructure.
So it's money.
It's money and it's leadership and it's expertise.
Okay.
And I bring all three of those.
This is unfair because you live here in Ward 8, but where you like to hang out? I already know, I think, but tell the people where you hang out here in Ward 8 when you just want to have a good old soulful time.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm the only person on this stage today that lives in Ward 8, so I just want to just say that out loud. And if elected, this will be the first time in history we have an at-large member that lives in Ward 8. That's a big deal, y'all. That's a big deal. The fact that we can have 2 council members that live in Ward 8 is a game changer for what we can get done in this district and what we can get done in our neighborhoods. And so I just want to reinforce that. As far as where I would go to hang out, though, Soul Food, Georgina's, that's it. That hands down, Soul Food. If you go on to dinner, happy hour. If you go to Sapadilla's, they got all-night Friday happy hour. I like the oysters. The wings are pretty good, too. And then if you drink, go to D-City Smokehouse. They have a new little speakeasy bar back there. Shout out to my favorite bartender, Space. But yeah, I think that's really the places I frequent all the time. Outside of my backyard, you know, hanging out.
Yeah, I've seen you at several of these places.
Yeah, we've had a few drinks together, Doc.
Well, so let me give you the floor, Greg, to make your final pitch to Ward 8 voters why they should select you as the next at-large council member.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank y'all for being here. Give yourself a round of applause. Look, I'm Greg Jackson. I've spent the last 13 years of my life working to make this city safer and America safer. I believe in this district. I bled for this district. I'm a homeowner here. I love my neighbors. All my neighbors know me. They was hanging out at my house yesterday when I should have been knocking doors. But most importantly, this is a moment in history where we can really change things. We can make our community safer. We can make sure we have the housing we need. We can fight for the resources, whether it's filling potholes or funding our resources for our education and recreation. And that's why I'm fighting right now. We have had a council for a long time that has talked about the importance of Ward 8, but has not taken action. And I'm Greg Jackson. I want to fight to make sure we do less talk and more action on public safety. Less talk and more action on affordable housing. Less talk and more action on education. And less talk and more action to bring real jobs that we can work in. Not everyone across the ward necessarily can get every job, but we can fight to make sure we have the businesses and the opportunity we need. I refuse to believe that Ward 8 has a talent problem. What we have is an opportunity problem. And I want to fight to bring more opportunities to this ward. So I'm Greg Jackson. Please vote for me. I'm number 9 on your ballot. Let's talk, more action. Thank you.
Greg Jackson. Deanna Forrester. Let me first by asking you, what is your specific case to Ward 8 voters about how you will make sure that Ward 8 is not going to be treated as an afterthought once you get on the council?
Yeah, so I would say this. Whenever I've been in any position I've ever held, from being an organizer to being a labor leader to being an ANC commissioner, being a commissioner on DC House and Authority Board, my first priority has always been to put people like me and all Ward 8 residents first. My first home was in Valley Terrace, but I live in Ward 7 now. But I'm from DC. I've been here all my life. And the things that I've seen on the city council is continuously you have people that are making decisions that impact the people that are hurting the most. The people that are hurting the most are not at the table making those decisions. And that's why I decided to run. And you could look at my track record, you can tell that every position that I've been in, the work that I've concretely done to contribute to make sure that people that have been in DC all their lives can stay here. From leading the campaign to ensure that we had $15 an hour, from leading the campaign for paid family medical leave, as an ANC commissioner holding developers accountable when they came and asked for taxpayers' resources but did not want to develop affordable housing. But also making sure that when we had community benefits agreements on the Marriott and in Ward 1, that we had agreements that benefited the community and they weren't just something and promises that were on paper. So with that being said, I'm always going to make sure that the people that are hurting the most, and we know in Ward 7 and 8, east of the river, are the ones that are hurting the most, but at the same time are not being fully represented on the council.
Got it. Let's go a little bit deeper. You said that you have seen that the people who should be at the table are not at the table. Talk to me about who those people are and what will you do as councilwoman to get those folks and keep them at the table?
So let me say this. I had never thought I would run for office. One, because I'm a single mother, and making this decision to run for office is a sacrifice to my family. I don't have the privilege of going without income because I'm the head of my household. So what I realized is every year, especially budget season, we have to make hard cuts. And how many of us go down to the Wilson building and beg and plead and tell our stories to council members to get them to protect funding of the resources that we need? One thing I realized I was missing is that we don't have someone on council currently that comes from a single working class family, not a politician, not someone who has been prepared all their lives to run for office, but an everyday person that knows what it feels like to deal with everyday struggles. DC has one of the highest populations of single-family homes, and they also represent 60% of the children living in poverty. But we don't have a single working-class mother on the council. So I will be running to be that voice. But I'm gonna say one thing, I know my life is not everybody's experience. I'm always gonna be an organizer and make sure that I'm hearing directly from the community. But we need someone that understands that when you say we have to choose between vouchers for childcare and affordable housing, we know what those cuts mean.
Talk to me a little bit more about your stance around education and youth. You said that you are a single mother. You have young people, young children in school.
My daughter's getting ready to graduate, third generation Jackson Reed.
Okay, amen. We like that. What school?
So she is third generation Jackson Reed.
Okay.
I was second Wilson. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Understood. Well, so as councilwoman, obviously you would have, a voice on how we're spending our dollars for youth and for schools. Talk to me a little bit more about your plans around that.
So I'll say this, living in Ward 8 and having to commute from Ward 8 to Dill and Wilson, and I had the ability to go to Dill and Wilson because my mother was a police officer, and at the same time, when she was a police officer in DC, you had to live in the community you worked in. So during that time, she, of course, had people that, it wasn't safe for us to be around, especially when we started going to high school, so we got a special exception to go to Dill and Wilson. This was before the lottery system. With that being said, growing up in Ward 8, I lived in Valley Terrace. Even though we didn't have the resources that you have in other parts of the city, I didn't realize we were poor until I went to Dill and Wilson, because we all were, same working classes, had the same resources. And it felt good to be a part of the community. We all left the neighborhood together, went to school together, came home together. But having to leave my neighborhood to go to a school west of the park opened up my eyes to the inequality in the city. But also, because I want to get to your answer, and I'm saying this because the big priority for me is I've had to take that same route for 20 years for myself and my daughters to go back and forth to school. And the reality is, I talk to youth now and I ask them, why do they think that the violence is happening in the community? One thing they pointed out to me is that because we don't go to school in our community. We have to leave out our communities. We go in different communities, and there's beef happening.
So people aren't carrying weapons because they want to be violent. They're carrying them because they're trying to protect themselves. So my priority is ensure that we have quality schools in every neighborhood. And about 20 years ago, I got community schools legislation passed in the District of Columbia. We never really invested in the model, and we have not, and right now we're threatening to cut the funding for community schools.
What agency would you want to have oversight of if you are elected to the council?
So I would say this.
And why?
So I would say this. I strongly encourage everyone, especially because it's election season, and if you are paying attention, you have paid attention to the DC public school budget and all the budgets, all the education budgets. We need the council to have an education committee. We cannot keep education in the committee as a whole, and therefore we are not able to move forward with policies. So I would strongly encourage Chairman Mendelson to have an education committee, and on that committee, you should have people that actually attended DC public schools, sent their kids to DC public schools, and can come up with some real creative solutions.
Is that both sectors of schools or just DC public schools?
Both sectors of schools, I apologize.
Okay. No, just clarifying.
Because under the education committee, they'll offer.
Absolutely, understood. And now, one of the things about you, Deanna, is that your background includes labor and worker advocacy. So, and you lived a little bit in Ward 8. How long did you live in Ward 8?
I lived in Ward 8 from the time I was 9 until 16. Okay. I went to Ann Beers Educational Facility.
Well, Ann Beers, that's Ward 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But you lived in Ward 8 during those formative years.
Valley Terrace, 1955 Valley Terrace.
Hey, I remember Valley Terrace. Listen, you don't want me to go back in my day and tell you about some time I spent over in Valley Terrace. But, you know, your background, labor, worker advocacy, Ward 8, as you know, we could benefit from more union jobs, more apprenticeships, worker protections. How will you work to ensure that that happens as a councilwoman?
Well, one thing that I would say is, and I definitely agree with you, I used to run a pre-apprenticeship program over at the Dream Center where we intentionally did outreach to young people to get them in pre-apprenticeship programs so they can get directly into a trade. And it was by me setting up a partnership with the unions to accept those young people. Similar to what we've done with Metro too. Metro has given ATU 689 the ability, if you train them, we will hire them. So we want to make sure that we have more of those kind of programs. I also would like to see more trades programs. You know, when I was growing up, I was 18 years old when I had my daughter. As soon as I graduated from high school, I was told I was not college material. So I went to cosmetology school. I wish I had a Chamberlain to go to. You know, we don't have those trades programs that can help redirect young people that feel like, you know, they don't have a path from college, but they want to get into a trade. So I want to make sure that we're investing in getting those partnerships back into schools.
Got it. Well, thank you for this conversation. I'm going to give you the last word. Make your case as to why you should become the next councilwoman for the District of Columbia.
Thank you. My name is Deanna Forster. I'm a proud DC native. I lived in DC all my life and I'm not going anywhere, and that's why I decided to run. For the past 20 years, we've seen our families and communities kicked out. You can look at every title I've had as a mother, as an organizer, as an ANC commissioner, as a labor leader. You can look at everything that I've done and point to concrete results that delivered for DC residents. I didn't do it because I was running for office. I did it because I care and because I want to make sure that my family can stay here. I have seen the city change, but I've also seen our city leadership change. And I want to make sure that when my grandsons look at the city council, they see someone that looks like them and realize you do not have to come from a political family. You don't have to live in the right neighborhood. That all you need to be is someone that cares, someone who's been directly impacted and you've done something to address the problems. I'm Deanna Forster. I'm number 6 on the ballot. I hope to be number 1.
Next is our next candidate for at-large. It is Kevin B. Chavous. Yeah! Kevin, thanks for being here. I'm gonna start off with this because you are uniquely different in this race in that you're running to replace your boss, who just so happens to be, your former boss, sorry, who happens to be here, Anita Bonds. Talk to me about her legacy a bit and why you believe you are the right candidate to step into her role.
Well, I think you described it correctly, that I am uniquely qualified to step into the role. Councilmember Bonds, I owe a lot to, and she has taught me so much about how the city should be run, so much about the history here in DC, and frankly, no other candidate running has the same connection to DC and the same training that I have. And that's why I chose the song that I came out to, because they aren't like us. They're not like me and my team. I'm day one ready to serve the whole city based on my experience. And I have so much respect for Councilmember Bonds and what she has done for the city, not just as a council member, but you gotta remember this is somebody who helped get Mayor for Life, Marion Barry, elected the first time, okay? All right, so we're talking about one of the best, if not the best strategists in the city. And I have a lot of respect for the history in DC. As a native of DC, born and raised, the son of a former council member, I know how much we work to build DC and turn DC into what it is. And I want to make sure people who built DC have a space in its future.
So, as someone who worked for the former council member and want to replace her, some would say, are you going to be the same as her? Will you have a different perspective, a different, legislative, push than the former councilman? How will you be different from who will then be the former councilwoman?
That's a great question. And, I have a lot of respect for Councilmember Bonds, but we didn't agree on everything. I mean, there were a lot of things that we disagreed on when it came to priorities. So no, I will be different. Not only do I look a little bit different than her, I also have different opinions about certain things. But the thing about me is that I know that I don't have all the answers. So when I say I'll be different, what I'm going to be similar in is listening first, being connected to every neighborhood, being focused on maintaining grassroots connections with real people, with all wards, being a council member for the whole city, not just a couple of neighborhoods.
So if elected, you will live east of the river, right? So you will essentially be a cousin of ours. Tell me about why you believe, as someone who lives east of the river, could represent Ward 8, even though you are a Ward 7 resident.
Yes, I'm Ward 7. I always love coming to the great Ward 8, but I do live in the Ward 7. I'll just say Ward 7. But no, I love no, but Ward 7 and Ward 8, I mean, it's east of the river, and there's no real boundary between Ward 7 and 8. I mean, we're connected. We are the same. So for me, I look at it as we're fighting the same battles. A lot of the things the problems that we're facing in Ward 8 are the same problems we're facing in Ward 7. The overproliferation of liquor stores, I know that's been a big complaint in Ward 8. It's a problem in Ward 7 as well. We shouldn't have all the liquor stores in Ward 8. Smoke shops, the illegal gifting shops. It shouldn't all be in our community. So as someone who lives east of the river, I understand what we're dealing with and we'll be working hard to address it.
Well, one of the things that Ward 8 is a little bit different from Ward 7 on is that we carry a heavy burden of affordable housing, public housing here in our ward. And so, and there is a need for it. Let's be honest, there is an absolute need for more affordable housing. There are a lot of displacement pressures happening here. What should the council do to protect longtime residents while also encouraging responsible growth?
I think we have to do a better job of preserving units that we have. We've talked a lot about the need to build more and new construction, but we've done a lot of building over the past decade or so, and rents are still through the roof. The average person still can't find an apartment or afford the apartments that are available. And they're sitting vacant. So I don't think just building and building will bring the prices down for everyday people. We also have to put more programs in place, as you mentioned. So one thing I think we have to do is expand expand inclusionary zoning a little bit, to open up more units for people who are in the middle class people here in DC. We don't do enough of that. We also have to make the inclusionary zoning program more transparent. We have to make it more transparent. Sometimes it takes over a year for IZ units to be rented out. I'll push for more transparency and more public disclosure to make sure we get affordable units filled quickly, because that will help keep people in the city. It's very personal for me as a native who have seen so many of my friends and family that I've grown up with move out of the city. And it is very sad to me. And it's a big reason why I'm running. As a parent with 2 children, I want them to be able to live in DC. I want their friends to be able to live in DC. And I'm committed to doing that.
Well, let's talk about education and our youth. You just mentioned that you're a parent of 2 daughters, right? 2 girls?
One daughter,
one son. What should the council do to expand programs like after-school services and career pathways, recreation, mentoring, all those things that we hear a lot about? Or do you think those are programs that we need for our young people?
We absolutely need them for our young people. One of the problems is that the great out-of-school time programming, a lot of it is focused elsewhere. We don't have programming in every school east of the river or even in other parts of the city. I believe every children should have access to high-quality out-of-school time programming. And for $30 million, we could do that. I believe $30 million would get us 90% of the programming that we need. Now, that's not a small amount of money, but it's something that I'll fight for the government to find money for, because we shouldn't have to go all the way up Tinleytown or all the way up Shepherd Park for activities for kids. And parents should not have to pay for every extracurricular that their kids take part in. We have enough money, we have enough resources to provide quality out-of-school time programming for every child, regardless of where they live.
What agency will you want to have oversight over and why?
For oversight, I would have to say DOES, because this work I did with Councilmember Bonds. I was the committee director for the Committee on Executive Administration and Labor. And I believe DOES has good programming, some of the newer programming like Infrastructure Academy, the DC Healthcare Academy, but we don't invest enough of our local dollars in providing job opportunities and pathways to careers for young people and young adults. And I think if we do that, if people are able to earn money, develop a career, everything else flows from there. They're able to build a life. They're able to fight to contribute and stay in DC. So I really want to make sure we're doing more with our local dollars to get people into careers.
Okay. And where would you go to hang out? I mean, I know you're a cousin of Ward 8, but where would you take a loved one or someone visiting our city to see the real soul of Ward 8? Where would you take them? Yeah, here in Ward 8.
Well, you got to start with Players. I mean, Players Lounge would be number 1.
I mean, we love Players. Anybody else besides Players? But that's number 1.
Bus Boys.
It's number 1. Okay.
I like Sapadilla's. Sapadill right there on Marion Avenue. You know, there are a lot of good places in Ward 8. And do we want to talk about Navy Yard too? Because that's Ward 8 now too.
It is.
So y'all got Ward 7 beat right now. So I'll give you that.
I don't know about all that.
Okay.
Y'all do have Skyline now. Come on. We love Skyline.
Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha.
We were waiting for that for 30, 40 years. So we're happy to have that.
Well, Kevin, I'll give you the stage. Please make your case to Ward 8 voters as to why you should be the next council member for at large.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for sticking around. I know we're a little behind schedule, but this election is the most critical election since home rule. Honestly, let's just face it. We're going to have a new mayor, a new delegate, and multiple new members. We know we're going to have a mayor that's learning basically on the job how to be mayor. We can't afford to have a council that's also learning on the job. And I'm the candidate that has unique, deep roots in DC. I grew up in a household where politics was discussed around the dinner table all the time. And some of my earliest memories are going with my dad to places that were hit by fires and helping people clean out their belongings in trash bags over in Eastgate. One time at 7 in the morning, a woman just said, I got evicted. She called my dad. I opened the door. She was out front with 4 kids. Like, hey, we need a place to stay. You know, I understand the weight of the job that I'm running for. I'm not running because I need a career change or I've been in another state working for someone else, and now I'm trying to come back to DC because I'm looking to do something different. I've been committed to working for the people of DC, and only the people of DC, my whole career. And that's what has prepared me for this role. And I think all voters need to look very carefully at the resume and what people have done, what rooms they've been in, what experience they have, because not all experience translates into being an effective council member that can represent the whole city. And the last thing I'll say is, I don't look at an at-large member as a bonus member or an extra member. I look at myself as your council member. You will be able to call my office if you have constituent issues. That's another thing Councilmember Bonds really taught me. You've got to be responsive to constituents to make sure your office prioritizes the constituent issues of all residents, especially in Ward 8 and Ward 7. So you have that commitment from me as your council member. I view myself as your council member, and will work with whoever the Ward 8 council member is. Councilmember Trayon White is the current council member. I will work hand in hand with him to make sure Ward 8 is getting what you all deserve. So thank you. I'm Kevin Chavis, number 8 on the ballot, and I need your support. Thank you.
Give it up, everybody. Kevin Chavis. Well, let's get it right. Laniqua Dominique Jenkins, everybody. All right. Have a seat. Welcome. First of all, you're one of our cousins as well, right? You live just on the other side of the invisible border there in Ward 7.
I do.
Talk to me a little bit about your plan for jobs and workforce development.
That is an excellent question. I'm really excited to answer because I actually have robust experience in job creation. So I've owned and operated a home healthcare agency for over a decade, not just in DC, but in Maryland and Virginia. I also have global businesses focused on social entrepreneurship. So I have a school and an orphanage in East Africa. Additionally, I'm a top-selling children's book author that I promoted independently that became an Amazon top seller. So all of this speaks to my ability to create jobs and re-navigate DC where we're not so heavily reliant on federal jobs and diversifying the types of jobs that we're offering to our neighbors.
Got it. As you know, because you're one of our cousins in Ward 7, here in Ward 8 we have a lot of pressure around displacement, affordability challenges. I talk to residents who are having a very hard time making ends meet. They have more month than money. What can the council do, in your role as a council member, do to help support these Ward 8 families who are really struggling to just make ends meet?
There are lots of things that we can do. My mom, who's in the audience, wave your hand, Mommy. She always told me that success is when preparation meets opportunity. And I think that we need to do a better job of ensuring that our resources are reaching the people. DC is incredibly resource rich, but the resources aren't getting to the people. So some of the things that I would do is ensure a stronger pipeline between workforce development and career opportunities. When we recently looked at the budget pointed towards workforce development, it was a $24 million investment, but there was only a 6% employment rate. So there's a big disconnect between how we're investing and creating jobs. And then secondly, when looking hyper-focused exclusively at housing, I would definitely make sure that TOPA is fully funded. I'm someone that's personally benefited from that legislation. Around 2012, my family, and when I say family, I really want to emphasize that my family is intergenerational. So it's my mom, my dad, my niece, my nephew, my sister. We were all wrongfully evicted. 3 generations displaced. And I had a lot of privilege. I had an advanced degree. I was the primary breadwinner for my family. I was actually working on the Hill at the time and running my own company. And I found myself struggling to find secure, stable, dignified housing, not just for myself, but 3 generations of people that I love very deeply. It was because of TOPA that I was able to relocate not just myself, but my entire family.
So there are residents who are just like you, who were just like you, who are, facing eviction, have been evicted, living in shelter, living even sadly on the streets.
What do you say to those residents and to those of us who are voting on behalf of them in terms of getting them into safe, dignified housing like you and your family got to experience?
I think that partly we need to educate ourselves on expanding the definition of what it looks like to be unhoused, right? So I think sometimes we may make assumptions about why someone might be wrestling with housing insecurity or might be living unhoused. So I think that we need to understand that root causes of people being unhoused. It can be a mental health issue. It can be a substance abuse issue. It could be needing gainful employment. So I think looking at it in a robust way and not a singular way, ensuring that we're creating permanent stable housing, making sure we're investing into social safety nets to support our neighbors when they fall on hard times or when they need additional support.
If you become a council member, what agency or what committee would you like to have oversight on?
I am so glad you asked that question. So I have really deep roots in the senior community. I manage one of the largest senior portfolios in the District of Columbia in wards 1, 7, and 8, focused on senior isolation and loneliness and food insecurity. Additionally, like I mentioned earlier for the folks that weren't in the room, that I owned and operated a home healthcare agency, not just creating jobs for neighbors, but also ensuring that folks that had invisible disabilities or folks that were geriatric age were able to age in place and age with dignity and get respectable, high-quality help and support. Also, I was appointed as a DC Senior Ambassador, meaning I was responsible for ensuring that neighbors over 60 got critical information of offerings and programs for folks over 60 that was sponsored by the District of Columbia. So I would really water and cultivate that skill that I already have and give stronger oversight to the Department of Aging, ensuring that we are making sure that our seniors age in place. We are the only culture that I've observed that devalues people as they age. Getting old is a privilege, not a right, and we really need to honor that in the District of Columbia a lot more.
We got some applause on that line there. So,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We love and adore our seniors. I was raised by one. Wouldn't be here without one.
Absolutely.
So we can appreciate that. Where do you like to hang out in Ward 8? Whenever you're over in Ward 8, which you are now, take us to a spot that you would like to let folks know is the best spot to go in Ward 8.
This is very difficult
It can't be here.
I know, I won't pick here. This is difficult because Ward 8 has so many gyms and so many places that I love to visit. So I'm gonna personalize it and share a little bit about myself. In my personal life, I live a close to nature lifestyle, and I'm also a really big history buff. So what I would do is create a historic foot tour and take people through the amazing Anacostia. Ward 8. I will start with Anacostia Park, paying honor and homage to the people that were here long before me, the Anacostia people and the Iroquois people, and honor trees and land and the ports and the rivers that make Ward 8 very vibrant and beautiful. And then I will walk a little further and go down Marion Avenue. I will stop and get something sweet at Sweet Tooth, honoring a Black-owned business that unfortunately has been facing some economic turbulence. So being very thoughtful about where we put our dollars. I will highlight the history of the big chair and also mention Lynn Arnold, who actually lived on top of the big chair to raise awareness around economic development. And then I will probably end, where would I end?
That sounds like a lot.
At Turning Natural. I'm gonna
Turning
need a
Natural?
smoothie after that walk.
All right. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm gonna need a smoothie.
That's a great tour.
Yes.
Thanks for chatting with me. Make your closing argument to Ward 8 voters as to why they should select Laniqua Dominique Jenkins, did I get it right?
You said it perfectly.
As the next at-large council.
Absolutely. I am so excited to be here. I thank you guys for your time and attention. My name Laniqua Dominique Jenkins, and yes, Laniqua Dominique is one first name. I always say that because I believe in showing up honestly and authentically, and that starts with having folks say your name and or your pronouns. Like many of you in this room, I wear many hats. I've been an ANC commissioner. I've been a columnist writing stories about Ward 7 and 8. I'm a former kindergarten teacher in Ward 7. I'm a successful children's book author. My book is actually in an Anacostia museum. It's been used to have hard conversations about race. Additionally, there's 2 copies in every DC public school. So if you have little scholars, please encourage them to check it out. I've worked for former and current council members. I've written policy and legislation, not just in DC, but in Africa, India, and Spain. I'm currently a PhD student. I'm a second-year PhD student, and I'm the current student government president at the amazing University of the District of Columbia. My platform is as diverse and robust as this beautiful place we all call home. It's pointed on the 3 E's. The first one is education, making sure that people that we love, our little scholars, are reading on level by 3rd grade. Education shows us that reading on level by 3rd grade is an excellent indicator of academic outcomes and also success opportunities. The second is equity, making sure that DC government is working the same for all of us, no matter where we live. Living in Deanwood has shown me what happens when the resources don't reach the people. And unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of you in this room can relate as well. And then the third is environmental justice, keeping DC greener and cleaner and creating green jobs and supporting the bottle bill. I hope that I've earned your vote and support, but most importantly, I hope that you hear my heart that's pointed towards everyone in this room. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you on and off the campaign trail.
Our next speaker to come to the stage, actually before I do that, I want to honor someone who has joined us today. Sandy Allen, give us a hand wave back there. Former Ward 8 councilwoman, we still call her Councilwoman Allen. It's great to see you. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you got a chance to vote, right? Okay, because we're going to make sure we get it in. All right, thank you so much. Good to see your son here as well. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, let's bring up our next speaker. It is none other than Lisa Redden. Right. Lisa, thank you for being here. Let's talk a little bit about your background. Tell us who you are. How did you get into politics? Why are you running for this seat of at-large councilwoman? Oh, at-large council member. But you will be a councilwoman.
I am a woman, yes.
Right. Got it. Okay.
So, thank you. So good to be here. I am many things. I am a mom of twins, so you know how to do really hard things. I have been in DC for 30 years. I live in Ward 6, about 5 blocks from the former RFK Stadium. And I served Ward 6 as the State Board of Education member and also was elected by my peers on the board to be president. I also served as senior education advisor to former council chairman Kwame Brown and got to manage the education, oversight, budget, legislation work, and got to spend time in schools around all of DC, and also served as chief of staff to DC Attorney General Carl Racine. So again, got to be in every ward in this city, working on really important issues like wage theft, going after slumlords, making sure that all of our kids had great schools in every neighborhood. And right now, I do very important work. I'm the major gifts officer for Covenant House Greater Washington in Ward 8. So we're located next to the ARC, next to Boys and Girls Club. And I'm really proud to do that work and support our youth and get them the services and the housing to stabilize them and then lead them to lead independent lives. And a big part of why I'm running for this seat to get back into government is that every time I get out in the nonprofit world and do work for our DC residents, I see that our government is not always a great partner. And a perfect example of that is that with this current budget, we just found out that we are going to have a 6% cut to all of the youth homeless programs. And that to us translates into $224,000 cut from our program. And that means fewer youth who we can serve. And this is all of the youth homeless programs are experience the same thing. And that's just an example of one of the things that just makes me want to fight for this seat and do this work as a at-large council member.
Well, let's hang out there a little bit around youth homelessness. I was someone as a teenager, I was 13 years old, and I lived in a situation that was untenable. And I went to stay at Sasha Bruce's house over on Maryland Avenue. And I'm
big fan of Sasha Bruce. They're amazing.
Me too. I still have a relationship with the executive director, Debbie Shore. And so I know firsthand what it means to have to be couch surfing and figuring out if you have enough underwear to wear the next day, which was my case. Talk to me about why youth homelessness is really, I think, driving some of the challenges that we continue to see in parts of our ward. People keep talking about curfews. People don't want to go home because home isn't safe. So can you talk a little bit more about that and why, is that partially why you got into this race?
It is, and I'm so glad you brought that up and that you're proud of your experience, that you found a place that really helped you. And Debbie Shore is a hero. She does incredible work. I've had 2 youth, or now young adults, come up to me, one of whom is working at Accenture, has this amazing job, and they were doing an event for us, and he came up to me and said that I was at Covenant House, and now I have this amazing job. It was through a paid apprenticeship program through UDC. And another young man as well who said, like, this, I had a place to go, a safe place to be. Not only that, a place where I could get services that I needed, whether it was mental health support, it was job training, or getting connected to get a certificate, something they could do. They could be an EMT, they could get a job in building trades, like some really practical skills, and have a chance to earn a degree and then get a path to a job. And as you said, so many, not all of them, some of our youth just show up because they're in college and they can't pay their rent. Some of them come out of the child welfare system and they have nowhere to go. But again, yes, to cut back on those services at a time when our youth are in crisis, and we cannot be pulling back on the support. We need to be doing more.
Talk a bit about public safety. There's a big debate happening right now in our city around what we're doing with youth around public safety, but also just in general. You heard Greg Jackson was up here earlier. He talked a lot about public safety and how other places are doing it better than DC. How would you advocate, what would you push for around public safety if you were to be at the council?
Well, we talked about youth, and I believe very strongly in investing in them. What I have not heard a lot of people talk about, I think I'm the only one in my race who's talked about this, is safety for women. And so I was on the board of DC Safe, and I also know that about 4 in 10 women in DC report that they have been a victim of intimate partner violence or stalking at some point in their lives. And to me, that is such a critical issue. We have to keep shining a light on that, and we have to make sure that we are supporting our survivors, that we also make sure that we expedite, when they need a protection order, when a judge has to make a decision about should someone who has a violent history, who has abused their partner, should they be let out. And I think we have to be really thoughtful about that and really push that issue and say, what can we do to protect women so that they are not ending up as murder victims, which is unfortunately too common here in DC and everywhere.
We do have a high domestic violence rate, particularly here in Ward 8. Any legislation you would push to address that?
It's a really good question. For me, what I've done throughout my career, what I would do as a council member is to talk to those advocates, to talk to DC Safe, to talk to others who are working in this field and identify what are those holes. I'll just be honest, I don't know right now. I know that there is some good legislation. Some of it is also about enforcement and oversight and keeping an eye on, are we implementing the legislation that we already have well?
Got it. I've asked everyone this. Where would you hang out over here in Ward 8 if you were bringing someone to town to say, hey, this is a great spot where you should go and check out over in the Great 8?
Yeah. Well, there are 2. So one is I work next to the Arc, and there is members. There's a cafe that is in there, and I'm spacing out of Central. I was like, DC Central Kitchen. No, they do amazing work. And they actually also, we work with them on some of our farm that we have in the back, but they have some good food there in their cafe. And I also was introduced to D City Smokehouse by Salim. I don't know if he's still here, but Salim Adolfo did a great signature collection event there. And so really good food, and I would highly recommend that.
Got it. Lisa, make your final argument, your statement to Ward 8 voters as to why they should select you as the next at-large council member.
All right. Stand up.
You can sit. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I think you've all heard this from everyone who's been here already. This is a really critical time for our city. We're going to have a lot of turnover at the council. I think that we need people who have a lot of experience. I have 30 years working across this city. I've dedicated my entire career to the people of DC. I've worked across so many different issues. I have spent 4 oversight and budget cycles, 2 at the council, 2 at the agency level. I know how this works. I've written legislation. I am ready to get to work. But most importantly, my values are making sure that we support all of our residents across the city, that our government works well for everyone. In the last 2 days, I have talked to residents in Ward 7 and Ward 3, and they had same issue. One of the same issues was we need sidewalks in all the places that we want in ours, so our residents can get around safely, whether they're pushing strollers, they're in wheelchairs, or they're just going on a walk. I've had talked to people in Ward 1 and Ward 5 who said we got to deal with the rats. So there are a lot of issues that are common across our city. There are issues that are really unique to certain neighborhoods and wards. And so this at-large seat is really critical. And again, we need people who care about and will show up in every ward, and who also have the skills and the ability to make good decisions and to represent everyone in our district. So I hope to have your #1 ranking, your support. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Lisa Raymond, everybody. Let's take our picture.
Check my names. Baby, how you feel? Feeling good. Head toss, check my names. Baby, how you feel? Feeling good. Child, tired of the bullshit. Gone, that's your shirt off.
Lisa Raymond, thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Listen, I just want to shout out people who have stuck around. Man, I want to give y'all a round of applause, because that means you're committed to the cause. So I appreciate you. We're going to bring up one more candidate for at-large council, and then we're going to do a very quick round robin with those who are doing the state committee positions, and then we're going to get you out of here. Now, if you haven't had a chance to vote, I think we've already closed voting technically. Well, physically we've closed it, but technically it is still open. If you are in the process of voting, continue to do that. We've left the ballot open for that. But also, if you just arrived and you're a Ward 8 resident, we would love to have you participate. Our Issues and Legislative Affairs co-chair, Michael Greer, who's been working very hard with all of our volunteers. Can you give it up for all of our volunteers who came to help us out today, who helped to register you and get you your ballot? It is so important that we do this work with volunteers. I want to shout out the executive committee as well. I'll do that formally. But the executive committee, just wave your hands in the air. See, they're all working. They're working. So we appreciate you guys. Okay, I'm going to get one more candidate in, and then we're going to do a very quick interviews with the Democratic State Committee members, and we're going to get you out of here. Make sure you check out all of the stores here at Sycamore and Oak. Make sure you check out Dion. She's been open back there to serve you. Make sure you spend your money right here in Ward 8. Mr. DJ. Let's bring up our final candidate for at-large council member. Let's bring up Candace Tiana Nelson.
get what you need sometime, y'all. Hey. We gotta wait for the part though. Give me the bridge now. Hey. I feel like busting loose. Go ahead, sing it for us. Give me the bridge now. I feel like busting loose. Busting loose now.
All right, Candace, thank you so much for being here. We don't want to eat up into your time, so you're good. Yeah, thanks so much for being here, Candace. Listen, I want to just thank you and thank all of our at-large candidates who have supported the Ward 8 Democrats with our Get Out the Vote campaign, and so thank you for doing that. And thank you for your continued commitment to us. So thank you again. All right, let's start with why you are running. You are from Ward 4.
Yes.
And Ward 4 produces wonderful people, but who are, oh, we got some Ward 4 people here? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Ward 4 produces wonderful people from Ward 4 who are leaders in our city. Talk to me about what you want to do next. You want to become the councilwoman from Ward 4, but how will you represent Ward 8 as an at-large member?
Well, I appreciate the question, and yes, I have lived in Ward 4 for 20 years, but for 20 years I've been working for DC residents all across the city, and especially here in Ward 8. I serve on the board for the Wheeler Creek Community Development Corporation, and I've definitely enjoyed working and trying to make sure that DHS and our other agencies are fighting for residents in that area so that we can have the services that are necessary, and especially the services that are provided by our contractors. I think we need to pay more attention to that, and so just making sure things are balanced across the city, fighting for all 8 wards, but specifically that is the work that I've done in Ward 8.
Talk to me about education. What is your goals around education? Education, here in Ward 8 we have a lot of school-age children who are in both the DC public and public charter sectors, and it's very important as far as in our ward. Families care very deeply about that. What is your plan to help address education in our city and to help do more investments in that area?
Thank you for the question. Education is in one of my top 3 priorities: education, healthcare, and housing. And specifically in education, I've been fighting for literacy. Under 3 to 3rd grade, if you're not reading by 3rd grade, you're already left behind. And with adult literacy as well. When it comes to adult literacy, we know that phonics works. And so being able to focus on that and to have our libraries participate more when it comes to literacy. Also, when it comes to us focusing on education and when we have modernization in our schools and making sure that the programs are ready, but that the schools are looking and feeling as a space that children want to come in and learn, which is not one when our HVAC is broken, when the boiler rooms are going down. And so we want to make sure that the building is strong and the education is strong inside the building.
Yeah, we make sure that's happening. You mentioned around education, this idea that, we ought to be doing more around literacy.
Yes.
And so talk to me a little bit more about that, because here in Ward 8, east of the river, but particularly here in Ward 8, we have the highest illiteracy rate. And so, we are raising children, we are pushing, in a way, children throughout schools who are becoming illiterate adults. And so what will you do as a councilwoman for the entire city to push better programs and services to help ensure our adults, got to meet where they are able to function beyond just, a 1st or 2nd grade education?
Yes. One of the major responsibilities for a council member is oversight. And it's oversight of agency performance, which includes DCPS, obviously, but also oversight of the budget. And so I think one of the best things that you can do is set, as a legislator and as a council member, is you set the executive branch up, DCPS up. It's the layup for them to do the execution. And so one of the most important things, Troy, is to ensure that those programs have funding. Literacy
literacy programs have funding, that we have our students that in the most need, that we actually fund that, but then we allow the schools to determine where that funding goes. Sometimes we don't do that. And so the teachers and the schools, teacher attendants, they know where the funding belongs for our students, and we have the program set up that way, and that's what I think we should do. If, I was going to say, if I could also offer for education, something that I'm pushing for is universal free meals. That is something that's very important to me. I feel like if you are hungry, you cannot learn. I know when I'm hungry, I can't function. And so universal free meals, we already have community eligibility programs that are set up in our schools. And those schools have free breakfast and free lunch. But if we start with DCPS and move it through and we provide the appropriate funding, we can ensure that every school has free breakfast and free lunch.
How would you pay for that? What program? Let's say we're in a budget austerity moment right now. So how would you move money around? What would you cut? What would you expand on in order to afford such a program?
Thank you for the question. First, again, is for that specifically, it would be starting with the community eligibility program. So providing the funding with that, expanding that and growing it, and starting with DCPS, and then rolling it out to the charter schools. So that is how I would specifically do that. But Troy, when it comes to the budget, I think that, and this is where I get a little wonky, and some people call me a nerd, and I'm all right with that, I'm proud of that. But you start with looking deep into our programs and saying, how many services are coming from this? How many participants are in this program? Is this an area where we can collect and collide, and looking at that, that's how you start, because you can determine at that point where you can do the cuts. And performance is number one. I would not fund a program that is not performing. So you want to look there too. You look at the performance, but specifically at the participants and the services that are offered in the program, and that's where you start your cuts. You should not cut otherwise.
Let's talk about the budget since you brought it up. So this council has to make some tough decisions. You will ultimately, as a councilwoman, have to make tough budget decisions. But what is the one Ward 8 investment that you will fight for and to expand?
I appreciate the question. I've heard a lot of people today start with affordable housing and stuff, but for me, it is the foundations. It's education, healthcare, and housing. We know that is areas in Ward 8 that's lacking when it comes to healthcare. We've all been let down with what we see that's happening with Cedar Hill. We know that has left a lot to be desired. So that is a space where I would fight to ensure that we have the appropriate health care here, urgent care, to make sure that people can come here in Ward 8, and we don't see that now, unfortunately. Also, as I spoke before, with education, making sure that our programs are balanced for our students. And then when it comes to affordable housing, I believe that every ward has to have its share. And Ward 8 definitely has its share of affordable housing. And so we need to make sure that it's balanced so that Ward 3 has it, Ward 4, and it goes on down the line from 1 towards 8, because we are not seeing anything balanced when it comes to affordable housing in the District of Columbia.
What's the one thing you would do to push those other wards, including your home ward, because sometimes they push back? So how will you use the power of the legislative branch of government to push back on that, to make sure that it's spread out throughout the city?
Well, when you have the opportunity, you make sure that you mandate it by law. I mean, we saw with short-term family housing what Mayor Bowser tried to do to get that spread out amongst all 8 wards. We saw other wards push back, as you said, but when they push back, you have to push forward. I mean, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and I believe it's right to spread it across, the entire city. Affordability should be in all 8 wards.
We agree on that. What committee or what agency would you want to have oversight of if you were on the council?
Thank you for the question. It would be my dream to have education pulled out of the committee of the whole. I I do not think that it's getting the proper focus because it's getting chomped up in the committee of the whole. The committee of the whole is like Pac-Man. It's just eating everything up. And so I would love to have that. I would also love to see a committee on finance and revenue, especially with all the budget issues that are coming up, to have a committee on finance and revenue that's focused on the budget. I think it would be helpful to all of us, and that's an old committee back in the day. I think we should have standing committees. Right now, we have a very powerful chair that gets to choose what the committees are structured, who serves on what committees, and so I believe that that is something that we should have as well. I've told you my top points: education, healthcare, and housing. Healthcare, I've worked at the Department of Healthcare Finance. It's very important to me, so I would love to serve on the committee of, if they had one, of Health and Human Services, but Human Services, Healthcare, Committee on Health, and also Labor and Executive Administration, because that has DOES and has, our workforce programs.
And where would you like to hang out over here in Ward 8 when you are in Ward 8? I have seen you here in Ward 8 many times, and so where do you hang out when you say, hey, I want to hang out over in Ward 8, I want to take some friends and, experience the soul of the city? Where do you go?
Right, you have, I've been over here with you a few times hanging out at, Sapadilla's, Busboys, hanging out at the Players Lounge or Georgina's, but I'll tell you where I can get my favorite sandwich, and that's MLK Deli. Give me that crab cake sandwich, y'all. Shout out to MLK Deli.
We like MLK Deli for sure.
That's the best daggone sandwich.
Okay.
I ain't gonna lie, I would drive from 4 to 8 and put it on my plate. That is the best sandwich.
You need to see if they have Uber Eats or Grubhub or something to help get it to you. But we appreciate you coming and spending money here in Ward 8. Candace, make your final push to the voters of Ward 8. Why should they elect you as the next councilwoman at large for the District of Columbia?
Thank you. Well, thank you to everybody who stayed here so that you could hear all of us speak. I really appreciate it. My name is Candace Tiana Nelson, and I'm running because I believe leadership makes people feel seen, heard, and valued. And I believe that we should focus on our foundations, and that's education, healthcare, and housing, and ensuring that they are affordable, accessible, and of quality. And quality is key, because when education is strong, when healthcare is preventative, and when housing is stable, we all win. It's the foundation for an individual that builds the foundation for community and builds the foundation for our city. I am prepared, I'm principled, and I am ready to serve because I have 20 years of experience. If you've never heard me speak before, you may hear a twang. Well, my twang is loyal, but so am I, because for 20 years I've been fighting for DC residents. As an ANC commissioner, as the president of the Ward 4 Democrats, as president of the Black Caucus, working in the mayor's office as a policy analyst, serving at 5 different government agencies, serving as the transition director to Attorney General Brian Schwab, and to Councilmember Janice Lewis-George. And in all that experience, I have found that I understand the needs of district residents. And that experience lets me know and understanding that oversight is one of the most important things that our council members has to do. So I'm asking you to elect me because I understand what it is that we have to oversee. We've got to stop electing council members that don't understand what they're overseeing, y'all. And I have that experience, the experience behind me, the energy within me to push and push and push. My heart beats for equity and execution. And I'm ready to see a government that works for everyone. Thank you, Ward 8. Candace can, DC can, yes we can. Let's bust loose.
Our final segment focuses on the DC Democratic State Committee and the slate races. These races do not always get the same attention as mayor and council, but they do matter. The state committee help shape the work of the Democratic Party in D.C. These roles involve party governance, voter engagement, representation at national party level, organizing, committee work, candidate support, and making sure DC Democrats have a voice in the broader Democratic Party. For Ward 8, this matters because party infrastructure should not only show up in high turnout races or high dollar places. They should show up here in Ward 8 as well. So the ballot includes candidates for National Committee Man, National Committee Woman, at-large committee man, at-large committee woman, and ward committee seats. Voters will see a slate including Free DC as well as Democrats United to Free DC, among others. Act Now DC, I think, is the other slate from here in Ward 8. And so the representatives that have donated to our GOTV are the ones who we're going to talk with today. Now, for the slates, it is one member who will do the talking for 1 minute. For the candidates, they will have 1 minute, but all of the slate members can stand together for sure. So the first person I want to bring up is Mike Panetta, who is running for National Committee Man. Hey, Mike, listen, thanks so much for being here. Thanks again for your support of the Wade Democrats. Tell the people about this role and why you want it.
Sure. What I'm running for is a National Democratic Committee man. So y'all are the Democratic National Committee. We elect a man and a woman from D.C. to be on the National Democratic Committee to represent us. So I'm running for that role. It is part of the D.C. state leadership of the Democratic Party, but it is a national role of the National Democratic Party.
Seat is currently being occupied by Kevin Chambers.
That's correct.
Got it. And why you over the other candidates?
Well,
make your case right now.
Okay, so what I'm looking at when I see the Democratic Party nationally, I think a lot of things got to change. Is one, we have lost the narrative. We have lost voters that should be with us all the time. I think that National Democrats have taken too many demographics for granted. They think that the black community is just going to show up every 4 years and vote for them. The Hispanic community, we've lost rural voters, we've lost small business owners, we've lost so many people across the country that should be Democrats, and I don't think the National Party is doing enough to bring them in. So some of you remember my name because I used to be the shadow representative for DC for 6 years, and in that role, I saw firsthand how Democrats talk a big game every 4 years, every 2 years, and they don't back it up. So when I go to the National Democratic Party, I want to hold their feet to the fire because I remember when I was a shadow representative, it was, we're all fighting against Trump, we're all fighting against Republicans, but that time it was Obama who threw us under the bus with the budget deal, who was going to take away DC's right to fund reproductive rights for women to get a budget deal with the GOP. So it's the GOP, it's the Democrats that sometimes are not our friends, and I want to make sure that we hold our feet to the fire and let them know here in DC we're not going to put up with that anymore.
How can people find out more about you, and where do they make your pitch in terms of why they should vote for you?
Well, you should vote for me because I have experience working as a shadow representative, working with National Democrats, seeing firsthand how they are not always our friends. So what I want to do is I want to fight for statehood. I want to bring back voters who we should have. I want to make sure that we're not giving up anywhere in the country that we are competitive in every race where we should be, and to make sure that the DC Democrats are not taking it for granted every 4 years when they need our 3 electoral votes, that they're going to be here for statehood when we need it. When we have a Democratic president and a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate like we had 4 years ago, that we actually get statehood done this time. So my name is Mike Panetta. You can find me at Mike Panetta or MikeP4DNC.com, and find me on Instagram. I'm all over the place.
All right, our next person up is running for the Ward 8 committee man position, and his name is Salim Adolfo. Let's bring him up right now. You're running for the Ward 8 committee man position. Tell people what that is and why.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank y'all for trooping it out. These are our true soldiers. So when I think of the committee man role, especially as it pertains to Ward 8, I think of someone who can engage, especially our high school students, get them engaged and registering to vote, talk to them about policy, and educate them on how to be better advocates within the party, and show folks what it means to be civically engaged and involved. And what that could look like is we have bills currently right now that are sitting in committee, explaining to them what it means to sit in committee. How does bills get moved? How do bills get funded? And so I think this is an excellent opportunity to transform our organization into something that can be a powerhouse in the ward.
You are running as a Ward 8 committee man, but you technically sit on the DC Democratic Party. What would you do to strengthen the party from the top down to the ward level?
First, I would go talk to Stuart Anderson and see some of the things that he's done in order to build upon that legacy. Something that he, I believe, want to say was instrumental in starting, but I don't think he was able to take it to the next level, was to have the Returning Citizens Caucus. So to me, that's something I think that would be really good for us here in Ward 8, because we do have a large number of returning citizens.
Got it. All right. Well, make your pitch to Ward 8 voters as to why they should select you over the other members on the state committee seat.
I believe you all should choose me as one of the 2 state committee men for many of the things that I just stated, but because we do have relationships in a plethora of places that can help us advance the cause of the Democratic Party here in Ward 8. And not only that, you know, I'm a worker, I love to work, and I love to work with anybody that want to get the job done.
Tell us about you, Chanel, and why the free DC slate should be the slate that wins over the other ones.
Yes, so my name is Chanel Chaney. I'm born and raised in Southeast DC. I currently run a company called Bo Yoga, where we promote healing through meditation, yoga, and just bringing these healing modalities right into the neighborhoods. So I joined the Free DC slate, and I'm running as committee woman because I'm already an on-the-ground advocate, and I see a lot of things that are bills and cuts that come about that really affects our community, but we don't see any representation really fighting for us. Like, I didn't even know we had a Ward 8 committee woman. I didn't even know we had, I knew we always had a Ward 8 committee man because of Stewart, but I never knew that. And so that's the thing, a lot of the resources, a lot of the education and information that we have aren't reaching the community. And I am a representation of the community, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to start a new slate. So that way we can actually learn about what's going on, hold our council members accountable, the ones that we put in office. A lot of times what happens is the only time you see a council member is when they're campaigning. But once they get into office, we never see them again. So the slate is what will be able to, again, hold our council members accountable.
Gotcha. Chanel, make your case for why your slate over the other ones, and tell people how they can find you and contact you in the slate.
So vote for us, the Free DC slate, because we are bringing new energy. We're bringing new attitudes. We're bringing positive attitudes and positive energy to the Democratic Party.
The last but not least is the Democrats United to Free DC slate. Thank y'all so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. You have elected a speaker. Speaker, tell us who you are and tell us a little bit more about the slate.
Oh, you couldn't introduce me? I feel slighted. My name is Stuart Anderson. Not only do I serve as a spokesperson for Democrats United to Free DC, I am the first vice president for the Ward 8 Dems. I also serve as the current committee man for the ward. As you saw, most of the people who spoke about running for those slates and running for different positions, they all acknowledge my presence because I have been the committee man for 12 years. I now run for the at-large committee seat, and I encourage you to vote for my entire slate. Democrats United to Free DC. We are experienced. We have been in the fight. We've been on the Hill. We've been on the community all across the city. We have been involved in battles all across the nation. We show up and we show out at every convention since I've been involved
for the last 20 years. I've served as the committeeman alongside of David Meadows, Wanda Lockridge, and Miss Regina Pixley for a number of years. It gives me great pleasure to have been chosen to speak on behalf of our slate. There are many flyers, such as the one that I have in my hand. This is Monica Roche's, right? But there are a lot of flyers like these with individual people on the front and our slate members on the back. I encourage you not only to vote for myself, but I encourage you to vote for the entire slate.
Last question. This slate, how will electing this entire slate impact Ward 8? We need to see resources flow from the party down to Ward 8. And there are people who will say that's not happening as well as it could. So what will this slate, Democrats United to Free DC, do to ensure that that happens?
You're almost making me give away some trade secrets, but we're not going to give away the secrets. We're just going to do the work. One of the things about this group of individuals, in addition to all the other individuals who have joined us, right? All the other individuals who have joined us, many of whom have been a part of the various different wards, came together and said, we got to make sure we keep a tight ship on the DC Dems. And so, if we have a tight ship on the DC Dems, we're able to bring resources across the Anacostia River, because many of the members on this slate understand and have been fighting for it. They're not new to this, they're true to this. Somebody else said that earlier, right?
Remember that voting is underway right now. Check that program book for voting locations right here in Ward 8. You can vote anywhere, though, not just here in Ward 8. You can vote anywhere in the city, at any vote center, at any drop box. You can vote. You can do it. Make sure that you are engaged in this election. We put a lot of resources behind this because it's so important that we let Ward 8 voters know, Democratic voters know what's at